waiting will aggravate you. The calling it early and making a mistake will bury you. And here we go. This is a Fox News election alert. Pennsylvania goes to Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. And there's the big board, the 20 electoral votes from the state of Pennsylvania. We just got new metrics in. Donald J. Trump is the president of the United States elect. He won't be inaugurated until January, but the word has just reached the New York Hilton. Donald J. Trump, the son of a Queens millionaire, defied all conventional wisdom and all expectations. The long-term practices of the Republican Party were stood on their head. He spoke to the disaffected. He spoke a sense of trickle-down economics.
We've updated our electoral scorecard.
Folks, hold on one second. We got this slip.
We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News.
Fox News. Come on.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
There's no sound?
No sound.
Right. This is what it's showing right now. Did you do something with the...
How about now?
No.
How about now? I'm getting sound. All right. Man!
What was it?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I have sound right here.
Okay. Well, does anybody hear us? This is what I'm seeing right now. Is this delayed or something, Brian?
I don't know what that is.
That's you.
All right. See, we've got sound. Thank you, Mr. Producer. Welcome to Smith Radio. I am so very sorry. We've got some new equipment. I've been feverishly working all morning long trying to get everything all set up. Hey, guys, thanks for listening. And if you stick in later, I'll replay that video of Sweet Home Alabama again. I just couldn't play it for the YouTube audience because YouTube would absolutely destroy us for attempting to use Sweet Home Alabama. Anyways, folks, you're listening to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith, and
Kerry Smith.
Giving you all the late-breaking news of last week, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all. I want to give a shout-out to our Patreons. Thank you so very, very much. You have been it's because of you that this is even possible. The technology we have, the new equipment that we have, and getting everything plugged in, and thank you for your patience and all. We've got a lot of stuff to get into today. We had a scheduled interview that we were going to talk about because a lot of our fans wanted to talk to us about. They wanted more information.
But it's not time sensitive. It's not time
Right.
sensitive. So we'll have her on next week or even possibly the following week. I mean, it's a little bit time sensitive. If Timothy Schwartz was listening right now, which he probably is, he would say it is time sensitive. Which
What are you talking about, man?
It's about getting involved in politics the way we have and the way people that you see that have volunteered and gotten in insider stuff. And I mean, hell, I drove 2 motorcades this past election cycle.
Think about that, folks. Driving 2 motorcades.
Just one.
Just one alone.
It was a bucket list thing.
Right.
It was a bucket list thing. And there's people out there that obviously are not asking. I haven't had anybody ask me how they can do that. But I'm sure they all wanted to. But they did say, I don't know how to get involved. I don't know how to, do the things that you see a lot of these people do. So we were going to talk about that with this woman who I was thinking about my own stories, and I was thinking, well, I could just tell everybody what I did and how I did it. And then I started thinking about this one woman who lives in Cincinnati, in my part of the town and everything like that, who volunteered late. I remember I had already been entrenched. I had already networked a little bit, and I felt like I was in the early stages. But before we were done, she was the co-chair of our county's Trump campaign, and I thought, well, gosh, we should probably have her tell her story along with my story, and we'd be together, have her be like a call-in or something. And she was going to do it, but I caught her on her anniversary.
So happy anniversary.
Yes.
Did she tell you how many years she's been married?
She didn't. Basically, she was so excited. She was going to do it anyway. And I ruined it for her and her family because she then called me back and said, I won't be able to do it because when I told my husband, he let me in on the fact that he was going to do a surprise.
Wow.
So I just destroyed, I personally, single-handedly destroyed this woman's husband's surprise to her for her anniversary.
Super surprise.
So we will have to apologize to her when we have her on either next week or the week after. So.
All right, excellent. So, folks, this week, this roundup of this week, we're going to be talking about the Clinton, the Uranium One deal, the investigation that Sessions had floated. We're going to get some more into that. There's a lot of things that are coming out about the Uranium One situation. Yes, I am going to talk about it, though, folks. I've got to bring this back up. There is new relevant information about Alabama and about Roy Moore. And I know we live in Ohio and Cincinnati, and you live somewhere else, and none of us vote in Alabama. But it's very, very relevant that you know what's going on, what happened in Alabama, what's currently happening in Alabama. And while we're live right now, I just got a notification from Bill Stills.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's posted another video on YouTube.
It's still with no S.
Bill Still.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I do that. I also do that to J.J. Watts.
Well, I don't mean to
There's no S on Watts' name.
Oh, well, I don't mean to
J.J.
correct
Watts.
you on that and embarrass you on the air.
No,
but
it's okay.
when people
I'm not embarrassed.
they might actually want to look him up. He's actually at Bill Still on Twitter. So yeah, definitely check him out.
Bill Still.
So what did he say?
He said notifications just come up. Fundraising
Okay.
for Roy Moore
Yeah.
soars.
They've been reporting the opposite. When I say they, I mean
Right.
mainstream media, right?
Right.
They've been reporting the opposite. In fact, the whole point, it seems like, and we have a lot of insider information, and we've been told by a lot of people that what the GOP was doing with Roy Moore was an attempt to get the fundraising drive. And in fact, they officially pulled all GOP money from the Roy Moore campaign 30 days out.
National GOP money, however,
Right.
local state GOP money is still committed to Roy Moore. And apparently fundraising for Roy Moore is soaring according to Bill Still. Check that video out when this show is over. And I will certainly check it out. He's very, very solid, very relevant, and always
he's
always
my
on
favorite
point.
anchor. He's my favorite
Yes!
anchor. Right?
He's that anchor from back in the day that you always trusted.
He's the Walter Cronkite of new media is what he is.
That's exactly what it is.
He is.
We're also going to get into the Trump impeachment. Did you hear about this?
When didn't I hear about this? Trump impeachment? You mean there's news? I mean, I know
It's going to happen before Christmas.
Oh, right.
So we'll get into that. A huge Asia trip this week. Trump landing on the lawn of the White House. The kids and I watched that live. I bring that up only because when I was watching that as he was landing on the White House lawn, it was emotional in a sense that, man, thank God he's back home.
Right. I believe it was Katja Lee, who is at Crazy About Trump on Twitter, who actually tweeted out during the debacle. I guess it was the initial. There was all these allegations flying in every direction, and it seemed like chaos and out of control, which is obviously intended.
That's standard,
and
yeah.
Katja says, please come home. The kitties are out of control or something like that. And it blew up. So, yeah, that was very well timed.
Katja Lee, a good friend of the show. Really, really, I like her insight and the things that she does on Twitter. Hopefully she's doing something now.
She's
doing something now, and hopefully we'll all get to see it.
Yeah, she's that person that does the the heavy lifting in the background, and you never hear about it. You never hear about these people, and there's not a lot of them, but she's one of them. She's a heavy lifter, and you would never know when you met her. You would just think that she was just this nice, sweet girl that's a Trump supporter. And
woman.
Well,
How dare you? That's
well, she's like this.
Don't be so sexist.
Sexist?
Yeah,
No,
don't
that's
be so
ageist.
sexist.
That's ageist.
Don't be ageist. Why are you so hating on her age?
Right. I'm allowed to call her a girl. I don't think she'll be too upset about that.
No.
So, anyway,
probably not. We're also gonna talk about just a little bit. Hit up on a couple of events going on in the world today that they're put on display. It's socialism, communism, all on display for us. And if you've been watching the news this morning or some of the late breaking stuff on Twitter, you may have seen Zimbabwe in the news. You may not know much about Zimbabwe. I'll give you the lowdown, just as I give you the lowdown on Venezuela. Boom, 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 boom. Which one do you want, Venezuela or Zimbabwe?
They
I'll
both
give you a
have
minute
the
to think
same major issues. Everybody knows about Venezuela being a communist country for the most part. But what about Zimbabwe?
No, it's a sister country.
Oh,
absolutely.
Your problem right there.
Yeah, and a couple of things going on with Twitter this week. Twitter making some new announcements and some things are going to adjust. We'll see how that floats out. I know I've been getting blown up with DMs on Twitter and in our private message group about Twitter saying there's a report that says that it will use your cookies to decide whether.
Yes, I did read that article. I did. That's I need to hear more information, really, because from what I know about cookies, it didn't make sense to me.
Well, from what I read is that Twitter will not allow you to log on unless you enable your cookies.
Right.
Once
and
you do,
that's actually typical for several websites.
Right, absolutely. So once you do that, I guess they have the ability or the technology to see websites you had been to prior to them.
That would be considered hacking in my book.
I would think so.
I don't think Twitter is allowed to hack into your computer. And here's what I mean by that. A cookie is like a little program that they put on your computer, and you're supposed to allow that, and you can actually disable allowing that on your computer. You can even, there's even intermediate settings you could have where the only way cookies will go on is if you specifically allow them one by one. And there's some bad websites out there that'll put malicious cookies on there, and some of them are even considered malware. And basically it would send data from your computer back to the website. What I've never heard of, and maybe we'll need to have a computer science expert on, but I never heard of a cookie being able to look at data from other cookies.
No, they would actually, from what I know of it, they would actually have to look at it and see what your cookies are, what they look like. And if that's true, then that means they're coming into your computer.
Yeah, like it's really weird. Like here's an example of a cookie. You ever notice when you turn on your computer after having been logged out, you may even have your computer off, turn it back on, and you go back to a website like, let's say, gmail.com, and you're already logged in. Or if you're not logged in, your information is already filled out in the login thing. You don't even have to type in your username or password. All you have to do is click OK because it's already filled in. Your cookies do that. And it's safe because those cookies don't exist on other computers. So if I go to the library, I wouldn't be able to just turn it on and have my stuff filled out there because the cookies aren't there on that library's computer. Now, going further than that, what they're trying to say that Twitter's cookies are able to do is to be able to tell what other cookies you have on your computer and use that information to decide whether or not you're a white supremacist or a Nazi or a hater.
You just came from Breitbart.com.
Right, that's a good example. Now, obviously, to the layman or to the idiot social justice warrior, they would say, well, hey, I think that if Twitter knows that you frequent a, I don't even remember the name of that neo-Nazi website that got taken down by Google, which obviously is problematic right there for First Amendment issues, just in general. They're making it sound like if you frequent, let's say, a neo-Nazi website like that, I can't even remember the name of it. Maybe somebody could help me out and to remember that you should be considered not allowed. We consider you a neo-Nazi, so we're going to go ahead and not allow you to be on Twitter. Something like that. It would be equivalent to applying for a job somewhere, let's say, and then you put on your resume that you are a very high-ranking member of the KKK.
Oh, yikes.
That could be a little problematic, and so there's obviously an argument to be made as to whether or not that should be allowed or if it's moral to do that. However, we know how social justice warriors work. They're not going to say, well, we're just going to limit it to these absolutely positively universally accepted websites that are neo-Nazis, that we accept those as being neo-Nazi websites. They're going to take it all the way to the end. They're basically going to say, if you ever go and visit Breitbart, if you ever say visit any website that a social justice warrior has already labeled, and we know false accusations are flying all over the place. If you have supported Trump, you're not just a Trump supporter and a conservative, so we don't like you. You're literally Hitler. So you're Hitler, you're a neo-Nazi, you're white supremacist, you're KKK, you're all those for these completely insignificant, benign behaviors. And so therefore we know that they're going to use stuff like, oh, this guy likes and goes to and visits and reads Gateway Pundit articles. So you're clearly a hateful racist. So we're going to
have to be.
Yeah. So those are the things that they say are going to happen. The problem is correct me if I'm wrong, if you're a computer science person out there, but I didn't know that cookies can go that deep and do that much.
I didn't think they could either.
That's considered, in my opinion, that's malware or maybe even a virus. Are they loading viruses on your computer? And I would think that it would be illegal to do that. Even if you were to, I guess maybe if you were to agree to it, like we're going to put this app in the background, running in the background of your computer to verify whether or not you do these certain behavior patterns that make you eligible to use our app or make you ineligible to use our app. And we're not going to put it on there unless you agree to it. What would you say to that?
That would make me nervous. That'd make me real nervous.
Right. And so their argument is you shouldn't use Twitter. Do you want to hear my argument why Twitter should be not allowed to do that, even though they're a private organization?
Sure.
All right. Right now, we live in a world where, as far as I know, when our president of the United States tweets out a message, as far as I know, you guys can all correct me if I'm wrong out there in the interwebs right now, live, or if you're listening back, please DM me at Smith Radio, Smith with a Y. It's exclusive to Twitter. Right? When he tweets out, it's not like he's saying, McConnell's an idiot on Twitter. Let's say he tweets that out. He did
say the failing New York Times was
right.
pathetic.
As far as I know, he's not copying that message and posting it out on 6 or 7 or 8 different platforms. As far as I know, it's exclusive to Twitter. So my argument is, if the president of the United States is going to utilize Twitter as his exclusive platform to get word out to the masses, I think something's got to give, right?
Right.
Either A, Twitter should be adhering to the Constitution of the United States, or we should be, instead of giving Twitter hell for them abusing us and abusing natural human rights, we should be giving them hell for that. But
absolutely,
if Trump is going to be the reason why we have to do it, we have to give Twitter hell. And the reason why is because he's using Twitter as his exclusive platform. My argument is maybe we should be going after Trump and saying, Trump, you absolutely need to be utilizing multiple platforms, specifically ones that are direct competitors with Twitter. because they're abusing our human rights.
Right.
And so that's my argument for either A, we should be going after really pressuring Trump to either, I'm not saying go to let's say gab.ai exclusively, because I think that might actually violate laws. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. There may be laws that prevent a sitting president of the United States from giving preferential treatment to a private company. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean,
would it
that might fall in line with the government trying to make you buy health care, making it mandatory to buy health.
Well, I mean, would it be allowed for him to say, "Hey, I think you guys should only shop at you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm just saying you should only shop at Target."
Mainstream media got triggered when he said very fake news CNN. And by the way, Fox and Friends, yeah, y'all got it right. Everybody, you should be listening to Fox and Friends.
And some people say, hey, it's just freedom of speech. He's allowed to say and do whatever he wants. But I would think, just to avoid conflict of interest and future tyrannies, because let me tell you something right now. If gab.ai became the next Twitter, it's just a matter of time before it gets taken over by socialists who turn it into a tyrannical thing, as long as it's a monopoly. I think monopolies are the vehicle by which socialists turn the world into a tyranny.
Yeah, because there's no competition in monopoly. It's all
Right.
a lie, cheat, and steal.
What's going on? What's that asking you? Oh, your phone storage is full. Awesome. Love it. What should I choose? What should I choose? So if you're watching us on Periscope right now, we don't know how much longer that's going to last. I don't know. Periscope is the worst. I don't know. We shouldn't blast on them, I guess, but they are owned by Twitter.
It's easy to blast on them. It's easy.
So I would say my recommendation, getting back to the story, is that he come up with a system by where when he tweets out a message, that it goes on to, let's say, 4 competing platforms. And I would argue that not one of those 4 platforms should be Twitter because of what they have done and how they have been, I mean, let me ask you this. Does he order his press secretary to never call on CNN?
No. They should.
Would that be allowed? There was remember the debate
yeah,
where
they certainly do have their not favorites. They certainly do have preferential treatment because we had a White House correspondent never got called on.
Well, Lucian's never been called on.
Right. So we got something going. Not only that, but I was watching a video by Bill Whittle over the weekend, and he's got a lot of new videos out. He was kind of quiet there for a little while, but he's got some new videos out on YouTube, Bill Whittle, and he showed the bias, the media bias.
Right.
And I guess this video was made a little while, just recently. The numbers I heard a while ago was in the Press White House Corps. It was like maybe 3% were Republican, claimed to be a conservative, be Republican. He's saying right now it's 100% that they're all Democrat. They all either identify as nothing or Democrat.
Right. So I guess
that's a problem.
The point I was trying to make with them calling on or not calling on CNN is why are they calling on these people who are clearly coming out with fake stuff nonstop, constantly, all the time? I just don't get it. That's definitely the number one criticism I would have of the Trump administration right now, is that they don't seem to be aware of the power that they have to completely change this for the better, for the benefit of the United States in general. And the reason I say for the benefit of the United States in general is because I don't really think it helps. In fact, I think it hurts the country to have pretty much the monopoly of the news, the fake news media industrial complex or whatever it is that right. Dr. Gorka put out there. But if he has the power to change that by just deciding not to ever call on them in the press conferences, never give them exclusive interviews like he did with 60 Minutes, and to start calling on real news and new media at these places, because then they'll start to get more prestige and more power and more following, the people that are telling the truth. And also, when it comes to platforms such as Twitter, to no longer utilize them. Because I'm going to tell you right now, let's talk about this dynamically for a second. If Trump were to decide to abandon Twitter, what do you think would happen? What do you really think on a dynamic level? Like, what are the first things? You ever seen that show on History Channel? What if humans disappeared from Earth instantly? What would happen? And
No, I haven't. That's amazing.
oh, it's like a 2-hour-long documentary, and it starts off with humans just disappearing.
Does it have anything to do with us being the cancer of society? I don't know.
I don't know. They didn't even get into that.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
the first minutes were humans are gone.
Okay.
There are no humans on
The
Earth.
rapture happens and we all go to heaven.
Instantly, we're gone. And so what happens in the first minutes, and what happens in the first hours, and what happens in the first days? And this goes on over the course of 2 hours. And then it goes on to weeks, months, years, centuries, and millennia. Like what
The
ends up
Earth
happening.
would take back everything
Yes,
we've done.
and that's what they show in this
All you gotta do is
documentary.
drive to Detroit. I mean, the Earth is literally just sucking. Mother Earth is taking back what is hers.
That's right.
In
That's
Detroit.
Right. That's right. Well, imagine doing that same idea, but what would happen to Twitter if you just remove Trump? Just remove him. What happens to Twitter? What happens in the first minutes? What happens in the first hours? Whatever. And here's what I could just kind of mentally, off the top of my head, walk through. First and foremost, all of his supporters would cheer, and everything. It'd be utopia and euphoria.
We'd have to find a new place, though.
Well, no. Well, then he would say this is where he's not going to spend the rest of his presidency.
He doesn't disappear. He tweets out, "We're going to Gab.ai."
It could
I'm
be
out.
Gab, or it
Check
could
me
be
out.
Minds. I'm checked out. I'm done.
Wherever, yeah, Minds.
I'm
Minds.com.
deleting my account. All this stuff.
Right.
Right. So first, there would just be several hours, maybe even a day or two, of just people like.
I'll tell you what, it would be mass hysteria with mainstream media screaming, this is wrong. He can't do
Right.
this. Now we can't even see what he's saying.
There'll be people calling for impeachment. So the second thing would be a massive, massive influx of whatever platform he chose. And that's why I kind of think it'd be better if he just chose like 4 competing platforms, none of which should be Twitter. So that way it doesn't look like he's abusing his power.
He is
basically.
on Instagram.
Right, and the question is, since I don't ever use Instagram, I'm sure I have an account. I just don't even know what it is.
It's Smith Radio.
Well, I may even have a Carrie Smith one. But the point is, if he does post there, I don't even know. But he should probably exclude, just whatever. So in the next days, I'll tell you what would happen. There would be the mass migration of his followers. Then let me explain something to you people, and you'll kind of understand it if you don't already know this. You guys know how the blue checks are, right? And there's, of course, a verified gate that happened this past week, too, which I didn't plan on getting into that, but it's kind of interesting.
It's interesting that you and I still.
Well, yeah, we have I'm over.
Come on.
Oh, by the way, congratulations, Smith Radio. We broke through 15,000.
Yay!
We're at like 15.2 or 15.1.
I'm still stuck at 11.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been slow going since I hit probably 13.
And if you gain 50 followers and you lose 25, that's normal. That actually happens to a lot of us. So.
Oh no, but here's the thing that's weird. It's actually a scandal. It doesn't matter how many followers you pick up. You always lose 50%. Always.
I know.
If you pick up 500 new followers, you will have 250 unfollowers.
How does that make no platform anywhere?
It's an algorithm. It has to be an algorithm. There's no other explanation. But anyway, so here's what you need to know about these verified check marks. And you'll see this. You ever run into somebody that's got a verified check mark and you've never heard of this person before? You're like, oh, it's a famous person because they have a blue check mark. They obviously are of public importance. But I wonder what industry that is because I've never heard of them. So you click on their profile, and what's the first thing you notice? They only have 1,500 followers?
I found one with 800.
So what happens when you see that? You think to yourself, what kind of verified person gets the check with only 1,500 followers? Maybe they just joined. What's going on here? So then you say, well, what industry is this? And you check their profile and start reading their bio. And you start reading and you realize, oh, this is a journalist.
Yeah, there you go.
This is a journalist.
And
then
not a conservative journalist.
So then you click on their website, which is obviously just their little personal blog.
Right.
And you start reading it, and this person is a fully blowed socialist, a communist, or whatever. And
we got to let them in.
Right.
It's got to be fair.
And here's why I bring up this verified debacle thing. Because this is what Twitter is. Twitter is the platform of journalism. And I'm not just saying liberal journalism. If you think about it, think about what it is that Twitter does. If you had to describe Twitter to somebody that has never heard of it before, how would you describe it? Well, you make these short little notes and you throw them out there. And if people like what you're putting out there, they can follow you. And
so
then,
they get more of your notes.
Yeah, and every time you put out a new note, if the person's following you, they get it, right? And so it's almost like a publication. If you think about way back in the 1800s, people would make these leaflets, or they were utilizing the printing press the same exact way that Twitter is. So it's almost like the creators of Twitter have decided, can we recreate what they were doing back when the printing press was widespread? Where they would print out a whole bunch, they would duplicate a whole bunch of leaflets, and then whoever wanted them would get them. And a lot of times they would pay for them, and sometimes they would just give them to people who wanted them, maybe even for free. And they would have people that were whatever. And so Twitter kind of recreated that whole idea. So it makes perfect sense that it is a platform of journalists. So if they have a competitor, well, first and foremost, as journalists, you can only use the platform that everybody's at. That's why there's a monopoly on Twitter.
Right.
You can't use a Twitter competitor if the movers and shakers of news aren't there.
You could, but it wouldn't matter.
Work.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter.
It would just be a mess. That's why Twitter has a monopoly.
And that's why we went from Facebook to both of us on Twitter.
Right. And so this is why Trump and only Trump has the power to change this. Because he is such a central figure in news that if he were to leave Twitter, let's go back to the documentary. What happens weeks after Trump leaves? Weeks after, all the liberal blue check marks from Twitter, they'll stay at Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
For old time's sakes.
Right.
They will have, I'm talking liberals, people, they will have absolutely no choice but to open up
on our site.
On Gab or whatever.
Yeah, wherever we're at.
It could be Gab, it could be mine. Somebody was talking about MeWe. If you haven't heard of MeWe, it's MEWE.com, and it really kind of it's an app. So you go there and it sends you to a link to get it download. I actually am intrigued by the interface on MeWe, but it's not very popular yet. I am on there, so definitely if you do go there and you do download.
Did you open it? Was it Smith Radio?
I think it's Carrie Smith, and the reason I did Carrie Smith was because I wasn't really sure what to do. So we'll look into that, but I'm on there personally.
And Gab AI, anything having to do with the last name Smith, SMYTH. Yeah, it's pretty much us. There's a handful of them there.
The bad thing is
same as mine.
I'm gonna make a confession right here. I don't pretty much hardly ever open up Gab.ai or Minds or MeWe, and the reason why is because the movers and the shakers don't really use that much. You know what somebody said about Gab months ago? This is months ago, so it's kind of old news now. Somebody's like, Gab, it's starting to get popular. It's starting to kind of get a little bit of traction. But for the most part, it's just a collection of people that have been banned permanently from Twitter. So, you got your Milos.
And don't want to waste their time on actually going back to Twitter.
Yeah, because there's people like 0 Hour, there's a whole bunch of them.
There was one recently that I've never seen before, but someone that follows us, that we follow, she posted a picture of him back up and said, hey, he's trying to get back his 15,000 followers, good, solid guy. I went to his page. He's at about 2,000. I'm like, okay, I'll follow him. What the heck? Why not? lo and behold, he followed us right back.
Right, because he's trying to get back on the horse.
Right.
And so, Milo could have done that too. He was at Nero. He could have come back and
Yeah, but he was such a political figure in the realm that Twitter would have banned him again.
Well, you know what he said? He said, but the other ones haven't been though. There's a whole bunch of people who, when they get banned, Ricky Vaughn's a perfect example.
Is he back?
He comes back all the time.
No,
He's been back probably 10 times, but he always gets banned. And
Ricky Vaughn was the first. He gave me my start. He helped me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. He was on that list of top 100 most influential Twitter handles.
Really?
That's the one where Bill Mitchell was like number 26, and he was above a lot of people. Ricky Vaughn was on that list.
You got to get rid of Ricky Vaughn. You can't have that.
Oh, he's been banned so many times. But anyway, he comes back, and a bunch of other people pop back too. I think 0 Hour was one, which is why when you go to their site, you're like, this guy's a player? He's got 2,000 followers. Well, yeah, that's because he got banned. Right. So you could do that kind of stuff, but obviously that's no good. And so I think we need to push for Trump to take a serious look at doing these things to help out his legacy. When he's gone after 8 years.
And I talked about this on my scope this week. We've got to keep on keeping on.
Oh yeah,
this doesn't end for us.
Yeah, this is so much bigger than Trump, so much bigger, and he's got to know this now too. Remember, he didn't endorse Moore,
right? But he's not.
He endorsed his GOP competitor,
right? Well, Sarah Huckabee said this week when she was pressed by the press corps, she made the comment that Trump said if these allegations are true, then yes, he should step aside. If.
I just want to know which allegations they're talking about.
I don't know any of the allegations. Anyway, I don't know.
Well, I know one of the allegations is definitely false, and that's the one with the woman who claims that they had had relations when he was when she was 14. Yeah, and that has been completely debunked.
And then the one with Gloria Allred in the yearbook.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was the 14-year-old.
Yeah, she's the one. Yeah,
okay.
She was claiming she was 14. Maybe there was one report that she claimed she was 15. Apparently, he said that he didn't ever know her, never met her. I thought to myself, whoa, that's a big, big statement. That's a big, bold statement. If there's any evidence that comes out that can connect her and him together somehow, then it's going to look like this is a lie, and he's sunk. I actually said that to a lot of people. Well, then the yearbook thing came out, and I thought, oh, gosh, this is the evidence that I was worried about. Then come to find out that was completely made up.
Well, apparently Gloria Allred is under a lot of fire for this and refuses to even answer the question on liberal media outlets whether when they ask her the question, we've been told that this is fake, that this is made up, it's not true. Will you answer those allegations? And she refuses to answer that.
Well, the attorney to Roy Moore came out with a press conference, and he said that we suspect they're fake, which that's kind of an odd way to put it. Either he did it or didn't. But it was his attorney, so his whole thing is that's just the way he has to word it. And he said, we would like Gloria. Is that her name, Gloria?
Gloria.
Yeah, we would like her to hand over the yearbook to a neutral forensic person,
sure,
a neutral party, who would then do the forensic on it. Sean Hannity, for his part, said that he talked to a forensic handwriting expert, and that person told him that they will know. There will be no question as to whether or not that is really his signature, or whether or not it was written when they claim it was written, or whether it was written at a different time, disproving whether or not it's a real signature and all this stuff. And so now Roy Moore is tweeting out every single day a daily tally of how many days Gloria has gone since being asked to turn over the yearbook and having not done so. And last I checked yesterday, it was day 4. I'm assuming that at sometime today, if he hasn't already, he will tweet out that it's day 5. And I actually predicted from day 1 or day 0, when the press conference happened with the attorney, that she will not hand over this yearbook.
She can't. She can't. She'll lose her law license.
Right.
So, folks, if you've been following our scopes, please crush the follow button, crush the share button on this scope. If you've been following us throughout the week on our scopes, you guys know I got triggered this week by SJW.
Really? Which one? Who cares?
I can't tell you.
Oh.
Can't tell you. Got triggered hard.
Your lawyer has
right.
Told you not to. Okay.
Right. No names, but it was SJW. I got triggered by it if you saw the scope. Well, I promised to one of our loyal listeners, because I mentioned that I used some information from Dinesh D'Souza's book, The Big Lie, to debunk the SJW. It started out, I was having a private conversation with somebody about, they asked me what I was doing. I said, hold on, I got to tweet this out about Roy Moore real quick. And she interjected, oh, that rapist?
What?
And I was like, oh, no, you did. So I got triggered. I didn't see that comment. Anyway, so it went off the rails, went into slavery and the founding fathers, and that the Democrats used to be Republicans. That's why Abraham Lincoln is really a Democrat, but it's just a Republican. I'm like, come on, man. And you and I have talked about this years gone by.
Probably multiple times.
And we've talked together. We're like, what is this switching of parties?
I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm sure almost everybody is probably on the same page with me on this. I've never got a really good, acceptable explanation. I mean, intellectually acceptable.
Other than the fact that I accept it never happened.
Yeah, I think it was Mark Levin who said, I guess somebody called up, or maybe he was responding to an audio bite where he basically was accused, or they accused the Republicans of having switched, or vice versa, the sometime in the 60s or somewhere during the Civil Rights era where Democrats switched to Republicans switched, and it just flipped. And it was the liberals will tell you that it was all the racist white Southern hillbillies that wanted blacks to be hung up in trees and drugged from pickup trucks, that when their good old boy LBJ signed the civil rights legislation, that they were so appalled that they dropped out of the Democrat Party and switched over to Republicans. That sounds plausible, if you agree with all the racist rhetoric and accusations and all that kind of stuff. But
not probable. It's just not.
Well, there's a lot of problems with that explanation. But this is what Mark Levin says. When told that there was a big exodus switching over, Mark Levin says, who? Name me a name. Who switched?
Give me one name.
Give me a name. Who switched? And once you ask that question, all of a sudden you realize there's something very wrong with this narrative. Like, who switched over? What are they talking about? Like, how can you sit there and say that there was the big switch? What I think really happened is that the parties always generally believed in the same thing, even prior to civil rights, and there is evidence of that. But that the narrative changed. I think the narrative we got lied to by the media. We started getting lied to, and the perception of the parties changed, but nothing really actually changed. It was more of a perception thing. And you start to realize one thing you may learn, just like I did. I thought that fake news started on this past November 24th last year when Washington Post came out with the Russiagate article.
I went back and I was looking at some Ronald Reagan clips and some other things. I reminisce. I like doing that. Reagan calling out mainstream media's fake news. This is nothing new.
Yeah, and he was a Democrat back then, but then you got to ask yourself, why did he switch over? Was it because he was a white racist Southerner who liked to, kill black people or whatever? And No,
because he was a responsible conservative.
I think he woke up and realized, wait a minute, if I believe X, Y, and Z, then what the hell am I doing in the Democrat Party?
Right. So, folks, I've got a 1-minute clip. It's kind of like a preview, like a teaser from Dinesh D'Souza on his book, The Big Lie. And I promised I'd have it for you, and this is him.
For a long time, the left used to attack conservatives for being racist. In the movie Hillary's America, we challenged that and showed that the Democratic Party, the left, has actually been the party of racism. So now they've switched tactics, and their main thrust is to argue that Trump and the Republicans are fascists. Fascism is now the meta story, if you will, that's being pursued in the media, in Hollywood, and in the universities. My new book is called The Big Lie, and it questions who are the real fascists. Not only do I prove that Trump and the Republicans, the conservatives, are not fascist, but I turn the tables on the left and show that they are the real fascists. Fascism at its core is centralized state control. Fascism grew out of socialism and Marxism. And of course, we see from the street protest to the campus, the left using fascist tactics, all in the supposed name of fighting fascism. So the new book is explosive, it's timely. Please pre-order it now.
So that's it's a little teaser for you to pick up the book from Dinesh D'Souza, The Big Lie. There's some other really good clips about that. If you've seen any of his stuff, the one on Hillary Clinton, exposing the Clintons, also the one that he did about, Hillary's America, the secret history of the Democrat Party. The Big Lie is kind of like part 2, the sequel of the Democrat Party.
I love it because that needs to be taught that the narrative is very entrenched. They did a great job of this. It took them probably at least 20, 30, 40 years to really get going with and get traction with that narrative. But the Democrats have proven over the course of over a century now that it's going to go their way if they keep beating the drum and don't let up. A lie will eventually become the truth if you just stick with it and you don't let go of it and you just keep teaching new kids, new generations as they come up, and eventually it will replace the old, the facts that we know, and it replaces it with their narrative. Because, I mean, everybody just assumed that it made sense. The narrative made sense that the Republican Party was infiltrated by all the racists of the South from before the Civil Rights Movement. That narrative made sense, but as you say, Dinesh D'Souza completely obliterates that.
No, that narrative doesn't make sense.
I mean, it made sense the way that it was taught to us.
Oh, the way it was sold.
Yeah, in
the sense that
I'm saying you can't examine it.
The follow-up question is who switched.
Oh yeah, that's the quickest way, guys. If somebody, Mark Levin taught me that. I actually listened to him live on his show where he actually did that to somebody, and I'll tell you what, that's the quickest way to shut those people up. When you get in this argument where the Democrats have always been the party of racism and blah 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 and all this kind of stuff, and they still are, and they're like, no, those were the conservatives. That's what they always say. Those were the conservatives back then. The conservatives have remained conservatives and always racist and against blacks and against people of color and all this stuff. And so they try to explain a big switch that happened in the civil rights movement.
They have to. They have to come up with a big switch, because I even was telling this SJW and some of the younger millennials, I was explaining to them that back in the day, I want to say, forgive me, his last name was Stevens. I want to say Christopher Stevens. He was a Republican politician who railed very hardly against all the slavery, freeing slaves in D.C., freeing slaves in Pennsylvania so that they could go to school, they can learn, they can be educated.
So this has been back in the 1800s.
Yeah, just before Lincoln, but just before the Civil War.
Okay.
And he would be considered a right-winger, a far extremist right-winger Christian wanting to free the slaves. And ironically, if you watch the movie Lincoln, he is portrayed in that movie, and they do an incredible job. Tommy Lee Jones does an incredible job as this senator. I believe it's a senator.
I'm pretty sure I remember it was Stevens, now I think about it.
Yeah, and so the irony of it, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, he goes back home after, and I was wrong. I told millennials and SJWs I was wrong. I told them that 100% Republicans voted to free slaves, 14th Amendment Emancipation Proclamation, and all Democrats voted to keep their slaves. I am wrong, folks, and I'm a big man, and I can admit when I'm wrong. 16 Thaddeus, that's it, Thaddeus Stevens.
I'm quick on that.
Yeah.
Mr. Producer here.
16 Democrats sided with all the Republicans, and Thaddeus went home at the end of the movie, and he climbed into bed as if he was, hunkering down for the evening with his wife, in name only wife, not legally, not known amongst the peoples.
Okay.
Because she was black and his slave.
Oh, Thaddeus was.
Right. So his wife.
Yeah.
They had to keep it under wraps. I mean, it could be bad news.
Look at that look on his face. He's so angry.
He's pissed.
He's so angry. Oh my God. Well, back then, a lot of people don't know about the photography back in the 1860s, but you had to remain dead still for over a minute. I mean, totally still. If you blinked, you'd ruin the picture. So that's why nobody smiled back in the 1800s in the photographs, because you'd have to hold that perfectly still for a really long time. But anyway.
Wow. What, now that comes up, lo and behold, folks, I've got something special for you.
Look at his hair.
Thank you, Mr. Producer.
His hair looks exactly like that.
This is what happens when we've got you guys. You guys are there for us. You're helping us out. And we've got Mr. Producer in the background making it happen. This is a 33-second clip of Thaddeus Stevens, and in the movie, Lincoln.
I hold that all men are created equal, when here before me stands stinking the moral carcass of the gentleman from Ohio, proof that some men are inferior, endowed by their maker with dim wits, impermeable to reason, with cold, pallid slime in their veins instead of hot red blood. You are more reptile than man, George, so low and flat that the foot of man is incapable of crushing you. How dare you!
How dare you!
It's too good.
It's a lot of theater in Congress, wasn't there?
Oh, they got off Broadway, and there was no Hollywood to go to. So you just get elected.
You go to Ford's Theater, I guess.
Whoa. Too soon?
Too soon. Yeah. There's still
so anyways,
people,
folks, we're talking about all this flipping and back and forth and whatnot. It's not true. It never happened. History is what it is, and the Democrats are running scared of it. And if you are a solid, hardcore Christian, when I say hardcore, a conservative Christian who follows, your convictions and like he said, all men created equal, and not judging anybody for who they are or what they are, and understanding that everybody sins, everybody's got their issues, but big tent ideologies, nationalistic values.
This right here, it says that he was a leader of the radical Republican faction of the Republican Party.
Radical! And they're still calling us radicals today.
Well, the point is that, that flies in the face. Let's put it to you this way. So Republicans are a certain way today, which we are very inclusive. We don't like to see, what the Democrats have done to people of color, different cultures, and pretty much trying to enslave them with socialism, which we know that that's what happens to you, as proven by all the communist countries over the past century, right?
Right.
And you look back at the 1860s, and these Republicans were the same way. I find it very, very difficult to believe, if not impossible, that there was a switch, a big migration or switch at some point in there, because if it did happen, it would have had to have happened twice.
Right.
So how do we go from abolitionists to a bunch of racists and then back again?
It doesn't happen.
No. They're just full of crap.
Okay, so the reason why I bring all this up and the reason why this situation came up this week is because of Roy Moore. Mm-hmm. And why? Why? Because they
What do you mean about these people?
Those people.
Those people.
Them people. The Republican establishment elites, the John McCains, the Lindsey Grahams, everyone that's come out screaming against him. And you're like, how? That's weird. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. The Republicans coming out against him. Every Democrat's coming out after him. Every single Democrat politician's coming out after him. Mainstream media, spending. Check out Bill Still. He did a video on it yesterday. Spending 80 minutes of time blasting on Roy Moore when we've got a Democrat on trial for who was acquitted this week, but apparently the government, Menendez,
good old Bobby,
the government has evidence that he partook in underage prostitution.
Yeah,
this entire week.
Right.
So why am I bringing this up now? I got to bring this up, but this got to be aired out, folks. The GOP is attempting to stop Moore. They've got to stop him because he would go to the Senate and nullify John McCain. He would nullify John McCain's vote because he would vote with us, the people, for us as patriots. I'm telling you, it's the exact same thing that they did to Donald Trump and the Billy Bush tape 30 days out. 30 days out is a good number. That's why they call it the October surprise. 30 days out is a good enough leeway to where you can create, wreak havoc, and cause much chaos in a party with false accusations, lies, and mistruths, untruths, and never have enough time to investigate it to find the facts. And so that's why they did this. It's the same thing that they did to Donald Trump with the Billy Bush tape.
Right.
And look at what's going on in the Senate. We've got that race, the Toomey race in Pennsylvania. The race reached $162 million in Pennsylvania. Remember the Georgia special election? That one reached over $50 million. And they lost. Remember the day before the special election in Georgia, I was listening to Rush, and Rush is like, hey, it's a Monday morning. I'm going to tell you they're running scared. I'm going to let you know. They've changed their tune, folks. Before they said it was a guaranteed win for the Democrat. Now this Monday morning, they're saying, well, this isn't the end of it, even if he doesn't win. It's not an end all. And so the thing completely flipped. Georgia was a wash for the Democrats. They couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it off. How about spending instead of $50 million, $162 million, George Soros saying, you know what, guys? George Soros saying, yeah, you know what, guys? I'm getting too old. I'm getting too old for this, okay, guys? $162 million. It's too much money. It's too much money. Market's doing good, but I'm not doing that good. So let's find another way to campaign and cheaper, more effective. Let's spend $25,000.
Okay.
On robocalls.
Right.
To Democrat females.
Okay. Democrat females. Okay.
Promising them if any of them want to come out and speak out against Roy Moore, accusations, sexual misconduct, we promise you $5,000,
I heard as much as
$7,000.
$7,000, yeah.
And we promise we've got your back. The mainstream media, no investigations.
We got Gloria Allred in the wings.
Right.
She'll be your corner man.
Hey, Brian, it can't be true, Brian. This is local Channel 5, CBS, WKRG, Alabama news, investigative reporters doing what investigative reporters are supposed to do. And cue it up, Mr. Producer.
Hi, this is Lenny Bernstein. I'm a reporter for the Washington Post. I'm calling to find out if anyone at this address is a female between the ages of 54 to 57 years old willing to make damaging remarks about candidate Roy Moore for a reward of between $5,000 to $7,000. We will not be fully investigating these claims. However, we will need a written report. I can be reached by email, albernstein@WashingtonPost.com. Thank you.
And there's his email right there. albernstein@WashingtonPost.com. Washington Post claimed that this isn't true. This is a fake dude. But his email is right there.
Yeah, but did they ever prove that email actually? I mean, if you were to email that, does it kick it back?
No.
Doesn't kick it back.
No, of course
not. Well, yeah, but what if the guy calling just said he was Al Bernstein?
But how do you get a WashingtonPost.com email address?
Well, there might be a real Al Bernstein there, but the guy calling was just a shill.
Maybe.
Here's the problem with that, though. Washington Post said that they don't have an Al Bernstein.
Ooh, what's that mean?
Then they wouldn't have that address available, meaning it would get kicked back.
Right.
So doesn't that prove that they have to have somebody posing as an Al Bernstein? How would somebody? How would let's think about this logically?
How does this robocall go out to thousands of people and it be fake because somebody's trying to fake it? Well, you're telling me. Hold on. You're telling me Republicans are doing this.
The false flag.
The false flag to flip the script.
Right.
No, it's not a double anti-Quitsies, double backsies, millions can't touch me's no more.
But
what are we doing here?
There have been allegations that the Craigslist ads offering up to $2,500 for fighters to attend the rally to fight Trump supporters, that could be black flag too, or false flag.
That's true.
False flag.
That's fact. It's true.
I like to think it's true. Hey, it has not been debunked.
No, it hasn't
been debunked.
It hasn't
but
been.
Here's the thing. Let's walk through this logically. If there was no Al Bernstein that never worked at Washington Post, that is what they claimed.
Right.
Then if you email that email address, it should kick it back out as the email address being invalid.
Right.
But they're saying that Al Bernstein never worked there. So there is a real legitimate Washington Post email address that goes by that Al Bernstein at WashingtonPost.com, or else it would get kicked out as an invalid email address. So their claim has to be a lie. They could say that there is no Al Bernstein, but that doesn't mean that you can't have somebody with a fake name, which is exactly what they would do. I think their hand is caught in the cookie jar here. Totally caught in the cookie jar.
Yeah. No,
I think
would
it's
agree
pretty
100%.
much verifiable that somebody going by the name of Al Bernstein is calling these people up on behalf of Washington Post, because that's why the email address exists. I find it hard to believe that somebody that's outside of the Washington Post would be able to set up a false flag against the left, knowing about an email address that is real about a person that does not exist. So therefore, Washington Post is lying. Those were real robocalls, and that is why you get a fake yearbook entry. I guarantee you that this woman who claims who wants the $5,000 or $7,000. I mean, I want $5,000. I had a tweet go viral when I said, "Hey, I could use $1,000. Washington Post, what do you want me to say?" Do you remember that tweet?
Right.
That tweet blew up. So this woman obviously wanted the money and asked Washington Post, "What do you want me to say?" And I guarantee you they said, "Well, you can only get so much money unless you have solid physical evidence that we can use to run on him."
Right.
So she needed to produce it. She had his signature from their marriage thing that they went through.
Yeah.
When she went and did a divorce court thing. Roy Moore presided over her divorce. Okay?
Right.
So she had the paperwork from that, and she had his signature, and she was able to utilize that signature to forge a yearbook entry that would substantiate her false claims that there was some sort of relationship with her when she was only 14. If that makes any sense.
No, that makes sense.
So, unfortunately for her, she's not that bright. She's obviously a very good forger, because I looked at it and it's not half bad.
Well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, if she's involved in this, I mean, the Washington Post is going to get the best forgers they can get.
Oh, so you're saying that
this is collusion?
I 100% believe you, but Washington Post is going to maintain a certain amount of plausible deniability for legal reasons.
Oh, of course.
So at the end of the day, this woman, I think it's Nolan, maybe is her last name, she is going to go down with the ship, and the Washington Post is going to get the only life raft available. So that is the nature of fake news. They are evil, and they will take anybody down, and they don't care.
And this is the news that I'm talking about, folks. There's a 58-second clip of the montage, the 80 minutes of uninterrupted hate on more. And see, and we talk about this on the show, folks. When you look at the usual suspects and what they're doing to an individual, you can almost pretty much say, well, the Washington Post is involved again. A.M. Joy is involved again, who's an absolute, she's a good friend of Obama's and an absolute mouthpiece for the Democrat Party.
She's the quintessential fake news person.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you get this, and then you got to say, hey, something here stinks, folks.
You may have noticed the mainstream media's coverage of the scandal involving Alabama GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore.
I've been investigated more than any other person in this country.
It's received a lot of airtime.
Roy Moore. Roy Moore.
Roy Moore?
Roy Moore.
Well, what about the corruption trial of sitting Democratic United States Senator Bob Menendez involving the abuse of his office? What? Haven't you heard? The mainstream media has given 40 times more coverage to allegations against a GOP candidate than an actual federal corruption trial of a Democratic U.S. senator. Isn't that a media double standard? That a Democrat's corruption scandal is kept under wraps, while Republicans' alleged transgressions are given saturation coverage?
It's absolutely unbelievable.
Nice. And that's it. MRC TV. If you don't follow them, you absolutely should. They've got some great videos, great short clips like that on YouTube. Those are the folks that do real media news, real media information, and just to point it out, like we do here on Smith Radio.
Yeah, and let me tell you a little bit about Bob Melendez, just to get you up to speed in case you didn't know. He has been accused of purchasing an underage prostitute in the Dominican Republic. I don't remember if I checked. I may have actually checked to see what their age of consent is, and I believe they don't have a law for age of consent, which means that he may have actually legally purchased a child for a prostitute. That's actually possible. But the argument is that Roy Moore didn't exactly do anything illegal, but it's highly immoral to have...
The age of consent in Dominican Republic is 18 years of age.
Oh, I thought it wasn't available.
The age of consent is the minimum age at which an individual can consider legally.
Well, I don't know how he got an underage hooker then.
That's ageofconsent.net.
Wow. Okay. I thought I checked, and maybe I didn't check on that one then. I did check on a bunch of different countries in order to figure out about all these allegations, because a lot of this stuff happens overseas.
Wikipedia?
Yeah.
18.
Okay. So I must have missed the Dominican Republican thing. So he obviously was just totally breaking the law, not only in America, but in Dominican Republic. So, yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah, totally illegal.
And nobody's saying a word about it.
Well,
nobody's saying a word.
There was one thing I read, and gosh, I wish I remember the publication. All I can do is assure you that it was a liberal rag. May have actually been Washington Post, pointed out that the allegations against him about the underage prostitute is largely debunked. And they would say that. I'm not saying that that's true. That's what they're saying.
Right.
I believe that if you were to be fair, we can say that the illegal behavior allegation on Roy Moore has largely been debunked. So I don't know why they would say that about Menendez.
Well, Menendez this week had a mistrial.
Right, but that wasn't for the underage hooker. That whole thing hasn't even been pursued. That has not been pursued. The charge was the corruption.
The corruption charge. Was he the one selling the Obama's seat? Who did that?
Oh, that was what's his name up there in Chicago.
He's
still in jail.
He's still in jail, isn't he?
The guy with the hair.
Yeah.
He had the toupee or whatever that was. The good hairdo, the nice hairdo. He's got a beautiful rug. Beautiful rug.
Wow. Oh, that's right. Rob Blagojevich.
Yeah, whatever.
Rob
Vitch,
Blagojevich.
Something like that.
Oh my goodness, these Democrats are killing me. You're killing me, Smalls.
They're such hypocrites.
Right. So check this out. As we go through this, we start to uncover all these things that are going on. And like I said, the Justice Department has announced that they have evidence that Menendez did participate. If they've got evidence and they announce they have evidence, there's a big problem, folks. I'm just saying, big problem. But Kayla Moore, Roy Moore's wife of 30 years?
32 years?
38? Yeah.
It was over 30.
Okay,
30,
long-time wife, kids, Christian, family values, whatever, has come out. She gave a speech this week and said, we will not back down. This is not over. We are not walking away. We are not backing down. And I reported early on that they also talked about, floated the notion, I don't know if it's out there, maybe you guys on the scope can give me a heads up, that they were going to file defamation lawsuits left and right.
Good for them.
Good for them, absolutely.
By the way, he's fighting back fiercely on Twitter. He's actually making a fool out of Mitch McConnell. And making a fool out of Gloria Allred.
Check this out. This is the playbook from the Donald J. Trump. This is why Trump won. This is how Trump won. Because he don't take no BS. Going at the Democrats, gloves are off, fisticuffs, we're going head to head. Democrats, if you're coming at me and you're lying, you're cheating, you're stealing, there is no niceties. There is no etiquette. Right. When you literally lie about somebody, you call Trump literally Hitler. Now we've got problems. In the past, the George Bushes, the Rhino Republicans that took money from you Democrats would back down because they knew that that's what they're supposed to do. We're not those guys, and we're not taking this anymore. And Roy Moore taking a playbook, but taking a page out of Trump playbook. If you're right, you're right. And you come back swinging hardcore.
Definitely. He's definitely doing that.
So Debbie Wesson Gibson, she was one of the early accusers. This by Breitbart. She removed her social media bashing Trump and bashing Moore. She also is friends with Joe Biden. Pictures of her with Joe Biden. Her sister, good close friends with Jones, who's running against Moore.
Okay.
This is one of the accusers.
Yeah, Jones is the Democrat nominee for the seat in Senate seat in Alabama, running directly against Moore.
Right, but Debbie Wesson Gibson is an accuser. She had anti-Trump stuff on her social media, anti-Moore things on her media. Her sister is good friends with Moore's opponent, and they're both good friends with Joe Biden.
Yeah, and apparently wasn't his accuser, Moore's accuser, actually worked for the Clinton
Oh, there
campaign.
was another one. Yeah, another one
Clinton,
did
one
the
of
translations for the as a translator of some sort.
Yeah, at least one. There's probably multiple of his accusers have actual history of work, volunteer work for Democrats.
Right, and Gloria Allred, I said earlier, has refused to say if the document was forged. Beverly Nelson is the one that says that she has the yearbook, the high school yearbook, and it's just it's a mess. They've gotten themselves into a mess because normally a Republican would roll over. Normally you'd get just a regular run of the mill kind of Republican. No, I'm sorry, a regular run of the mill person would walk away. I couldn't take the heat. This is a lot of heat Moore's taken. It's a lot of heat Trump's taken as well. And the Republican governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, says that she will vote for the Republican candidate because she believes we need more Republicans in the Senate to help pass through Supreme Court justices and
Right.
things like that. So Governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, is voting for Roy Moore. Roy Moore was on Sean Hannity's show this past week, and this is just kind of like an excerpt, a small paragraph of what Roy Moore said on Sean's show, because we don't have Roy here. He's real busy raising funds. And apparently, again, I've announced to you this again, Bill Still just came out an hour and a half ago, saying that Roy Moore fundraising has rocketed, shot up through the roof.
That's
Roy
awesome.
Moore pulling in money. So, but this is what Moore had to say on Sean Hannity's show. He replied, and again, denying all these allegations whatsoever. And here's the case that he laid out. This is Roy Moore speaking to Hannity. Well, I think they should see it how it really is. And that's 40 years I've been in the public eye and serving as deputy prosecutor and as a judge. I've been a chief justice twice. I've run a foundation for moral law. And now, after 40 years, 4 weeks out from the election, not even mentioned in a primary, they bring cases and try to back them up with other things that sound bad. They allege things that are completely untrue. I never knew this woman. I never met this woman. These charges are politically motivated. They are there to do exactly what they're doing. The Democrat, he said Democrat, not Democratic, but the Democrat is 11 points behind. He's very liberal. They don't want to talk about his record. They don't want to talk about his inexperience. They want to diffuse this just like they diffused President Trump's agenda by bringing up the Russia deal. They're bringing up something that distracts from the campaign. They know what they're doing. They've got me, obviously, on the radio hearing about a sexual encounter that never happened. If I would put you in the same position, you would feel just like me. You'd be angered. You'd be very angry. That's exactly the position I'm in. This never happened. They know it never happened. And obviously, you don't wait 40 years. And might I add, he's 30 years in the public limelight, or 40 years in the public limelight. You don't wait 40 years to bring out something like this. Mic drop. That's a fact. He just said, why didn't they bring this up in the primary? Because if they did, that would have gotten the other Republican to have his seat, not him.
Which is what the Democrat would prefer, because these rhinos, who I believe his...
would roll over.
Yeah, and even he was endorsed by Trump and all this, but this was Mitch McConnell's pick that lost the primary to Moore. And this is a person that would have went on to be just like your McCain, who would have blocked, and just served for the Democrats and the Democrat agenda, just like McConnell and McCain and Collins and Graham and Kasich and all these people who were just serving the Democrat agenda. So anyway,
100%, absolutely.
So that's why they waited. This could have come up. This could have absolutely come up during the primary. The question is, why would the GOP? How did the GOP not know what the Democrats knew, and why couldn't they utilize it against? I shouldn't say the GOP, but definitely Roy Moore's opponent in the primary, and utilized it against him in the primary to win and to go on and become a senator.
Carrie and I got a really important message this morning, and that had to do with Roy Moore and had to do with the GOP and some dirty dealings and who's at fault and who's not at fault and who's bringing up this dirt on Roy Moore. Well, I did a little investigating, and our source is not far off, and our source saying that the GOP or people affiliated with the GOP may be involved in this because Breitbart is talking about this and Roy Moore is talking about this, saying that this is deep state, this is the Mitch McConnell's, Mitch McConnell speaking out to remove Moore, as well as John McCain. John McCain would be... I can't say he's irrelevant now because he's relevant. He's caused us problems. John McCain would be nullified and irrelevant if Moore took office. Flat out. So then John McCain would be irrelevant. I mean, why wouldn't John McCain want to come out screaming against him?
Right. I think that they're going down hard. I'm telling you right now, this is a Uni-Party thing, and we need to always keep that in mind. It's the Uni-Party versus the people. It's weird. Even I asked somebody this. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it now. I talked on the phone with somebody that it was a woman who's a big Trump supporter, and I said, "There's all these allegations about Moore. What do you think of them?" And she said, I don't care. I'm still supporting Moore because it's too important, and I think that they're lies. I think it's a smear campaign, and a lot of people that are listening right now would totally agree with that. So I said, well, let me throw a hypothetical out there at you because I really want to get a feel for what you think because, by the way, this woman's opinion matters. Trust me. She's very well connected. And I said, let me throw you a hypothetical. What if all the allegations were to be proven 100% verified, not fake, not made up, all real evidence, and it turns out that the allegations against Roy Moore were definitely 100% true? And she said, and this is shocking, this is a devout Christian woman too. She said, you know what, Carrie? There's just so much at stake. I don't care. I'm so sick and tired of what the Democrats are doing and what they have done that I'm not taking this crap from them anymore. I'm not taking all their lies. And even though this would have been true, she knows that this guy would be somebody that would be fighting against the evil. She's talking about the evil. She actually threw out there, she said, do you realize that somebody who has purchased a underage hooker in the Dominican Republic is going to be allowed to go on serving unscathed? And they're talking about Roy Moore. So she threw that one out at me. And I was just like, wow, I mean, I guess when it comes down to it, when you're at, all is fair in love and war, and this is no longer politics anymore. We are in what I call a cold war it's like a cold civil war because we're talking about American citizens, although I say that very loosely when describing Democrats. But
and here's more. This is what it is. You got MSNBC, CBS, ABC, CNN. You got the Washington Post that did a video that's posted up on their website and on their YouTube page where they went and interviewed people on the street about Moore.
Right.
Saying this is disgusting and despicable. We can't have this in the Senate. We can't have this disgusting stuff.
Right.
Folks, it is. These senators are despicable and disgusting as it is already.
But then here's the kicker. The icing on the cake is here we are after I had this conversation with this woman about this last week. We find out that the allegations are false. So it's actually really good news for the Trump movement. It's really good news for Roy Moore. There's going to be people that say, well, how do you know they're false? How do you know they're false? Guys, if they have to completely forge a yearbook entry, I mean, there's just no way. Especially the way it was described by the attorney.
Okay, not only is that forged, but check this out. MSNBC attempting to destroy Sean Hannity and Fox News.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't get any better than this.
In my opinion, so serious. The people of Alabama, they need to know the truth, and they've got to have all the facts that they need. And that means that the Alabama voters can make an educated, informed, inclusive decision for their state when they go to the polls.
Why can't anyone, and I guess it's the same question I have about Donald Trump, why is someone accused of predatory sexual conduct who's a Republican, like Roy Moore or Donald Trump?
Did you just hear what she said? She just said, listen to this, folks.
Predatory sexual conduct who's a Republican, like Roy Moore or Donald Trump.
So she just falsely accused.
She accused Donald Trump and Roy Moore
of sexual misconduct.
Right. Listen to it again.
anyone, and I guess it's the same question I have about Donald Trump. Why is someone accused of predatory sexual conduct who's a Republican, like Roy Moore or Donald Trump, given the hands-off treatment, and everyone who leans left or is a media figure crucified?
Well, this woman is a bald-faced liar. What a complete liar. Total complete liar this woman is. That is, you can't say that.
With a straight face.
It's like when, was it Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham that brought up the taxes on Romney, and they asked him why you lied about Romney's taxes, and he said, it worked, didn't it? He didn't win.
Right.
It worked.
Right, and that's what she's doing right here. Okay, so here's the question put to another lib. And she claims that she worked in a Republican White House.
She's such a liar.
Well, she might have for the
I would look
for the
her
Bushes.
right in the face, and I said, I saw you on MSNBC making statements that are not only demonstrably false, but you have to be a complete moron to not know that they were false. You had to know they were false.
Sean Hannity and Fox News are a totally corrupt enterprise that have nothing to do with journalism or principle and have everything to do with advancing an ideological agenda. That's all their behavior. All their behavior is totally predictable on those grounds. That's what they do every day on every story, and that this is a particularly galling, grotesque example. You would like to think that in this realm that we would not care about tribes, partisan tribes or ideological tribes, but the whole Fox News empire and its entire reason for being, its profit motive, its business model is built not, again, on journalism, but on advancing that agenda. And they are, again, we have tribalism in every area, but for Fox News, it goes all the way even to this area where you'd think that it would be the one place where it wouldn't be the case.
Right, the family-friendly. I mean, I guess the hypocrisy to me, Heather, is that, I worked in a Republican White House. We relied on Fox News for more generous and sort of the benefit of the doubt that we keep talking about, that we couldn't always get other places. But I would never have fathomed in a million years that it would extend to someone accused of sort of preying in a sexual manner on teenage girls.
Right, and the one guest there, she slipped and she was mumbling under her breath. She said pedophile. She was pedophile. Yeah. A Christian. And the host was saying Christian more. And as she was saying that, the black woman said, yeah, pedophile. I'm like, what? What?
These people are just such liars, complete liars. They're making up evidence and they're presenting it, and they know that they're false. They know that the evidence is made up. I think this is a conspiracy. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the way that this went down, with the speed at which it went down, with Gloria Allred, with the way it was reported, the timing of it, all of this was a perfectly coordinated smear campaign. And I didn't say this at first, guys. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not just one of these people that are leaping to the defense of a Republican under attack. No, I was very...
We both were nervous about it. Because they came so hard with it.
Well, and also, we're in uncharted territories here.
Right.
The uncharted territory, some people might be like, what do you mean uncharted territory? Has this never happened before? Let me explain to you what happened that has never happened, ever. There's been fake news out there, but what happened here with Roy Moore is brand spanking new. And that is where the lie alone, what is the saying? It's not about the nature of the evidence. It's the seriousness of the allegations.
Right.
That's the key. That's the key phrase, and they've been operating off of that. I guess. That's what their MO is. It's about the seriousness of the allegations. Well, that stopped working. The label of racist, misogynist, homophobe, all this stuff, those labels worked for the longest time. They were false accusations, and all you had to do was level serious accusations, and you didn't have to worry about evidence. This is the first case that I have ever seen, and maybe the only one that you could ever show is definitely the case, where in order to bolster the seriousness of the accusations, they had to manufacture the evidence.
Right.
They never had to manufacture evidence before. And now, when you look at how this was coordinated, and you see that the evidence was in fact manufactured, I don't think this is just the case of some woman who said, I'm going to get everybody. I'm not only going to get Roy Moore, but I'm going to fake out CNN and Washington Post by making this beautiful, perfect yearbook entry, complete with a real Roy Moore signature, because I'm really good at forging. I'm going to make this so realistic looking. You wait, everybody's going to be fooled. I'm going to get famous and paid and all this, and we're going to bring down Roy Moore because I'm a Democrat and I want him to come down. I want him to be taken down, and I want to make my mark on history. I think it went further than that. I think she got help on the forgery. I think that that it all started with the idea that she could get paid as much as $7,000 to help manufacture this evidence. I think that when she told them that she has his signature, and
they was salivating.
I think when she said, "I have his signature, I have a yearbook, and I was 14 at the time that that he was doing these." I think she was. I think the idea was, here's a guy who dated a couple of girls that were under the age of 18, but legally. We can make a big old argument.
17 and they worked together.
Yeah, so 17. There was one that was 18, and they're making this accusation as if there was anything wrong with that. Even like Mike Cernovich, who has this huge, he's got this huge campaign going on that's helping to bring down giant pedophile rings. He came out with a video that said, guys, I'm not on board with making a stink about somebody of any age, including Roy Moore's age at the time, dating an 18-year-old, period. No. It's an adult. So he made that very crystal clear. And this is a guy that's is currently on an absolute crusade to bring down pedophilia worldwide, which is obviously super commendable. But let's talk about the possibility that Roy Moore dated somebody that was 17 or 16, and he had the blessings of the mother or whatnot, and this is all legal in Alabama.
We're talking about dating. We're not talking about anything other than that.
Yeah, I don't even think there was
consummation of sorts of
right,
stuff.
Right. No, they admit that there was no sexual relations.
Right.
Which even if happened would have actually been legal in Alabama at the time. So I think what happened is the media saw those allegations.
They saw an opportunity.
And I think they said, you know what? Let's use this as a peripheral support for a big old fake news accusation. And I think they manufactured the 14-year-old in order to bring him down, but they're using the accusations of the 16, 17, and 18-year-olds to support the seriousness of the false accusation.
Right, you see what's going on
So
here?
what they did, so here's the uncharted territory. And guys, we're going to have to really seriously consider this from here on out, because we're in new territory. We're in uncharted waters, and I'm your captain. And that is that when fake news comes out about a serious accusation, or any news, it doesn't fake news, we'll find out if it's fake news or not. But let's say it's real news, or we think it's real news. When the evidence starts coming out, we're going to have to take a serious, hard look at it, really hard. We're going to have to examine the crap out of it, because now we're in a brave new world where serious accusations are going to come complete with fake evidence.
Right.
How long ago was it? A month ago when I told you, I don't even know if we did this on the air or not. There was a Glenn Beck show episode where he had this guy on from Silicon Valley who said, Glenn, if I told you what's coming down the pipe, you wouldn't sleep at night. And that was that they're coming out with artificial intelligence that's able to create fake evidence against you, including audio of your own voice saying things you never said.
Did you tell me this?
Yeah, I told you that.
Somebody said something about they're working on an app to where you can speak into it,
right, and
it will put out whatever celebrity that's been loaded.
No, I think what you're thinking of is if the AI has audio of your voice, it could then use that to make any sentences it wants and make it sound like it's coming from you.
Right.
And it utilized recordings from things that you actually said to manufacture real sentences that if somebody that didn't know any better heard, will be like, oh my God, that's Kerry saying that.
And you don't need to do much. Apparently there's a paragraph or a few sentences, specific words that you say and you repeat that the AI hears, and out of those couple of sentences or the paragraph, it can take every single one of those sounds and recreate your voice,
and
saying
it would even
anything.
It would include like variations in your accent and inflections in certain words and this kind of stuff.
Like
And
for
so-
me, they would use that don't make no never mind.
That don't make if the sentence ends with that don't make no never mind, you know it came from Brian.
I had to.
So, but we know we've actually lived through this phenomenon in a different way. Prior to 9/11, if you saw a photograph of something, that was evidence. And one day, a photograph was circulating, and everybody knew about Photoshop. It's just that up until that point, people photoshopped images that made you kind of laugh. They were kind of silly and ridiculous, and you're just like, wow, that's kind of amazing how
You
how
could
well
look at
Photoshop-
it and be like, wow, that's Photoshop. Kind of like Obama's birth certificate.
Right,
Wow, that's
right.
Photoshop.
Right, the ones that are obvious. So on the 9/11 thing, there was a viral photo that circulated all over the internet. It went around the internet like 6 times before somebody pointed out, wait, this might not be real. And that was a photograph of somebody taking a picture of themselves they were doing like selfie or whatnot, family picture, on top of the World Trade Center. And in the background, you saw a jumbo jet on its way in. And it looked like a found photo from 9/11 are you actually going to show it?
I can.
That's a different one, and I'll tell you why in a second.
No, this is the one where his winter coat is on?
Yeah, but I thought the one had overcast skies. Maybe not. Maybe there's a little bit of haziness. I guess you can show it to the people. So if you can make it full screen, I guess not. It's fine. But anyway, so this photo showed up on the internet, and people really believed it. I for some reason I remember it was overcast, but you can see it's kind of blue sky there. So are you showing it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the guy's got a winter coat on, and there's an aircraft in the background coming at it.
Right, and the reason people thought it was fake was, number one, they said it looked kind of cloudy, but I don't know. That doesn't look very cloudy in that photo. But the other reason was...
Could be small.
The other reason is that he's wearing a winter coat, and 9/11 was an unseasonably warm day. It was actually kind of warm that day.
Right.
So nobody would have been walking around in a coat like that. And he had a beanie on too, you could see.
Right.
So anyway, that was a photoshopped image, but it went millions and millions of people saw that photograph before. Oh, there's a bunch of them. You showed there's like a bunch of different ones. So millions of people saw that photograph and believed it to be true before somebody pointed out, no, that's Photoshop. And so the point is that now, these days, whenever you see a photograph, most people, a vast majority of people, their first thought is
I don't know about that.
It's probably Photoshopped.
Yeah.
Even if there's a photo that's not Photoshopped, there's a lot of people, a significant percentage of people out there that will instantly knee-jerk reaction say, oh, that's probably Photoshopped. And so what I think is going to happen in the future with this new technology that Glenn Beck talked about was that if you hear somebody like Brian saying a bunch of stuff that's either controversial or just maybe it's something that it sounds like he believes, but it's not because somebody manufactured it using this new AI and tacked on that don't make no never mind at the end of it, you will immediately suspect that it might be fake in the future. Once we get to that point, there'll be like this paradigm shift where you can no longer say that audio clips are verifiably true because of what's going to happen. And I totally see that coming down the pike. Isn't it weird? I would have never guessed this back in the 80s or when I was a kid. If somebody said that the ability to fake a photograph, you should be showing all this on the show. I don't know. Brian's surfing the web right now and finding all kinds of funny photographs. And he's not showing it to you
More
guys.
Iranian missile photoshoppings.
So the point is that I would have never guessed way back in the day that when technology gets up to speed, that we will be able to fake a photograph before we were able to fake audio. Because to me, audio is a simpler technology. But our brains work a lot different. Our eyes are so complex that it actually is easier to fake a photograph than it is to fake audio. So,
right now they've got some of the missiles that were funny.
Are you showing all this to everybody?
The missiles that are for those of you who listen to audio. There's a Photoshop picture of Iran shooting missiles in the air that do a complete. They go up in the air maybe about 50 feet and do a complete 180. It comes straight back down.
Yeah, that's hilarious looking. What about the one with the cat? What's that all about?
Apparently there's a cat that's helping the airstrike out.
It's a cat that looks like it's at least 150, maybe 300 feet tall.
Right. Then they had one of Godzilla. I don't know why they put Godzilla in with the missiles. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Anyhow, yeah. So it's the times that we live in. I mean, I remember Glenn Beck talking years ago about the technology that's coming out, especially in the adult film industry and the adult video viewing. These are all the things I'm telling you. I wouldn't want to be a young boy in this day and age.
Well, Rush Limbaugh said that feminism is going to cause everybody to just turn to technology for sexual pleasure.
I could see that. They're so angry.
Oh.
Speaking about angry folks, oh my goodness. So moving right along, this whole thing with Hillary Clinton, nobody's talking about anymore. It's kind of taking a back burner. But Hillary Clinton and some Democrats are coming out saying that her husband, his improprieties, his ability to not be able to control his rapist desires,
his faculties,
faculties, and no control over them. So they're coming out against Hillary. Paul Joseph Watson tweeted out a picture of Hillary recently, within the past week. Apparently, she still needs help getting around.
Well, I mean,
they're holding her arm so she doesn't fall.
I mean, she's like in her 70s now, right?
She's talking about, and the reason why I bring this up is because they're talking about 2020.
Oh,
they're starting to float it. They're saying if Joe Biden runs for president in 2020, he will be older than Ronald Reagan when Ronald Reagan retired.
Well,
when Reagan was finished, and done, went away.
Right, but we live in a world now where you can live.
Joe Biden, look at him.
I saw.
He's a creep fest.
Did you know that there's still shows on today with Morgan Freeman being the narrator on Discovery Channel and all this stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this one today, and they show him walking into a church and down the aisle, and he's in jeans and whatnot. And he was moving. He was just chucking along, diddy-bopping down the aisle. And I was like, man, I would think he would be like in a cane or a Segway.
Some people do better than others. I'm just specifically talking about those running for power. You've got the Democrat Party that is in utter shambles. Folks, this facade, this smoke screen that they're trying to paint this picture, the mainstream media, the Democrats themselves, all of them painting this picture that the Democrats are making a comeback in 2018. They're going to take back the House.
It's got to be with somebody new.
No, they're going to take the House from Republicans in 2018.
Well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler, and I don't mean to lull you guys into a sense of apathy, which you can do. It's like when you win the first 8 rounds in boxing, you try to coast the last 4.
Take her easy.
Yeah, and then you end up losing. Because, it's not good. And that kind of stuff happens. That happens in football all the time where you do the prevent defense. You get up by like 2 touchdowns, and then you just try to coast it through.
When you pull your number 1 guys off so they don't get hurt.
Right, and then you end up losing the game. And so I don't want to make it sound like I may be setting you guys up for that kind of thing. It just so happens that 2018 is already stacked against the Democrats anyway, because a lot of the seats that are up for grabs in 2018, which for those of you that don't know, not every single seat is up for grabs every single election cycle, especially like the 6-year seats. They only a third of them. A third of the Senate comes up every 2 years, a third of them, because they have 6-year terms. But so not all the seats are up. And what you're going to find is that it just so happens that in 2018, it's stacked in our favor because a majority of the third of senators that are up in 2018 happen to already have an upper hand.
However, if they can get this Roy Moore thing to stick, they lost Georgia, they lost Pennsylvania, and if they can get this Moore thing to stick in Alabama, well, we got to win, and we're getting a landslide coming. This is a rebuke of Donald J. Trump. This is a rebuke of his policy. This is what they're going to say. I'm telling you right now.
That's what they're going to try to say.
The words that they're going to use and the words they're going to say. And like Kerry said, don't get don't feel some sense of apathy towards politics right now. Now is when we got to put the heat on, learn as much as we can about the people who are in power so that we know, do we keep these guys? Do we get rid of them? So we've got the Democrat Party that is in shambles, that was on the verge of bankruptcy a couple of months before Clinton lost the election. You had Obama and Clinton raping their own party's coffers, taking all the money from their own parties, from their own party. The super PACs for Clinton paying Carly Fiorina, paying John Kasich, paying these other folks to be disruptors of Trump, to be disruptors of John McCain. Ironically, gets paid after he became a disruptor of Trump and an anti-never Trumper. So John McCain gets paid. Anyways, my whole point is the Democrat Party is hurting very bad, and the Clintons, the end of a dynasty, if you will, folks. This is by Tucker Carlson. It's about a minute and a half long. This is a farewell to the Clintons. And I believe this to be true because of their ill health, both of them, their ill health, and especially Hillary Clinton. But this should make you feel good that we need to focus our attention on other people and not anymore on the Clintons. And this is Tucker.
25 years ago this month exactly, Bill and Hillary Clinton took control of the Democratic Party, and they've basically run it, with a few exceptions, ever since. It's been a long time. Here's a look back.
I still believe in a place called hope.
I accept your nomination for President of the United States.
She looks as crazy now as ever.
I experimented with marijuana a time or two, and I didn't like it, and didn't inhale.
You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
I can state unequivocally that, as my husband has said, these are false allegations.
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes.
They went all out. Yeah.
The great story here for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it is this vast right-wing conspiracy.
What difference at this point does it make?
I feel your pain.
This was the biggest nothing burger ever.
Thank you, and may God bless you and the United States of America.
If you're a recent college graduate, that's your entire life. That's how long the Clintons have been in control, a quarter century. And for decades, they've held control because they and their acolytes have ruthlessly stamped out numerous charges of sexual harassment and assault brought against Bill Clinton.
Good point. Good point, Mr. Tucker Carlson.
If you are in college right now, your entire life
I mean, I'm an old man, guys.
Was overshadowed by these.
I'm an old man, and it seemed like almost my entire lifetime ago that he was running against good old George H.W. Bush and Ross Perot. And he squeaked out like a 42% victory in 1992 because Ross Perot got 15%.
It's amazing. It's because people were hoodwinked, or
well, I think that people were getting a little disillusioned with the establishment, and both Republican and Democrat.
And we know that the Bushes are establishment. We know that.
Absolutely. And so when Perot came along, Perot was the Donald Trump of the day. All you youngsters out there that don't know, Perot was the Donald Trump back then, and it was unimaginable that we could get a very successful businessman as president with no experience and all that. And turns out that what ended up happening to him was what we believed was what happens to people like him who run for president. And we thought the same thing was going to happen to Trump. And thank God, a miracle, God was looking out for humanity,
right?
For the free world, and kind of guided everybody and just ended up causing helping cause the win.
Right. So hopefully, when Jeff Sessions was talking this week, hopefully when he floated the notion that there would be a special counsel to look into the Uranium One deal, hopefully that does come to fruition. I know there's Republicans on the Hill that are talking about that currently, and this is just kind of a brief overview, real brief overview. I know you hear about Uranium One, you keep hearing about it, but nobody really talks about like the details, what was so awful, what was so bad about it. And this is Uranium One, just in a brief overview. There's a lot of other details and nuances that obviously I don't have time for, but just a brief overview of why this is such an awful situation and should be looked at. So the ClintonFoundation received over $150 million from Russian investors involved in Uranium One and the deal. They were under an active FBI investigation for bribery, and Slick Willie got a $500,000 cash speaking fee and held meetings with Putin prior to Hillary approving the Uranium One deal. Now think about that. Think about this Russian collusion that we're so obsessed with. Media is so obsessed with Donald Trump's Russian collusion. I'm here to make that Russian collusion of Donald Trump so absolutely silly because of the real collusion. The fact that the Clinton Foundation, it is a fact that money came from Russia. It's a fact that Bill Clinton went to Russia and got paid. That's a fact. It's a fact that Bill Clinton, this is all on the books. When Bill Clinton goes anywhere, it's on the books. Somebody knows somewhere, somehow, and he had meetings with Putin, and then all of a sudden, just like he had meetings with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac in Arizona, right after he has a meeting with somebody, apparently someone gets a good deal, and it ain't the American people. Okay, so
it's treasonous, man.
Yes,
totally treasonous.
So wind this back. Back in 2007, this guy Frank Giustra, and I know you've heard that name before. Frank Giustra, he was a businessman, a very wealthy businessman, and he went to Kazakhstan to find uranium deposits, mining uranium, things like that. He hooked up with the Clintons and paid him and some other guys, paid the Clintons millions of dollars and secured this created this company called UrAsia, and took this company and all the uranium and then sold the company to the Uranium One company out of Canada. So now they're lumping all these different companies together. They still maintained 60% stake in the new company. Okay?
Okay.
So the price of uranium was at a low point. At this point, right as they combined both companies and decided to sell off the stake in the company to Russia, which eventually was up to 51% stock, and then U.S. government, U.S. departments actually eventually approved for the Russia company to obtain the full 20% of the company. The stock was through the roof. It was the highest it had ever been during the sale, which means they raked millions of dollars on a fake deal because right after the uranium price spiked right up, they sold, and the uranium price completely falls right back down to where it was.
It's like insider trading situation.
Remember the, what was it, cattle futures? Hillary Clinton? She knew so much about cattle futures.
Cattlegate?
A guy's like, come on, Brian, you're making this up.
That's what I was about to say, but I didn't want to embarrass you, so I just kept my mouth shut.
Brian, come on, man.
What are you talking about, man?
What are you talking about?
Obviously, this makes no never mind.
This makes no never mind. I was looking for the picture of it all. But anyways, regardless. Back in the early days of Hillary Clinton, she took what was a meager amount of money, a couple $1,000s, invested it in cattle futures.
Okay.
Which prior she had never done before.
So she has no idea anything about cattle.
Not that anything would point to that.
Okay.
But she got tips. She had people. She put a meager amount of money in cattle futures. And all of a sudden, within a few months, made tens of thousands of dollars and pulled her money right back out.
So right off the bat, she got a little primer in the pump.
Right. So she's not a stranger to these types of deals. However, this was a deal against the American people in the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. And then the sale of 20% of America's uranium being held in if you go to Politico and some of these other ragtag news outlets, they'll tell you, hey, this isn't that big a deal. I mean, the uranium still stays in America. It's not like it's getting shipped to Russia. No. Folks, it is a big deal, folks. Russia having any control in anything in America is a problem, in my book. I don't want it to happen.
I agree with you 100%. And they use like a third party through Canada and everything like that, right?
Right. There was a Uranium One that was out of Canada that owned uranium in America. The Kremlin, this Russian company that the Russian company eventually took over the total 20% control of Uranium One, and is directly connected to the Kremlin, directly connected to Putin. So you want to talk about Russia. You want to talk about collusion with Russia, and you want to talk about Russiagate. Anybody want to talk about Russiagate and John McCain? Anybody want to talk about the Russian dossier and John McCain? How about the Russian dossier and the Hillary Clintons and all these backdoor parties? The fake Russian dossier, this fake as all get out, and reports now that Hillary Clinton is looking for the fake dossier part 2.
You know, I have to correct myself now that we're bringing up the dossier. I brought up Brave New World, uncharted territory, uncharted waters, when I talked about serious allegations now being supported by fake evidence.
Right.
Well, actually, it's been done. It's called the dossier. The serious allegations are Urine-gate or Golden Shower Gate or whatever, because obviously that was going to be a problem because it was going to mean that he could be blackmailed by the Kremlin with compromising evidence, which would be a videotape of him engaging in golden showers.
Right.
And then we find out that the evidence, which was the dossier, was completely made up out of thin air. So in a way, what's happening to Moore isn't exactly completely unprecedented. It's actually kind of an extension of what they did with the dossier in Russia.
And so TruePundit.com, if you don't follow him on Twitter, you absolutely should. It's at Thomas 1776 Paine, Paine, Thomas 1776 Paine.
Amy Moreno is a writer for them, I think.
Okay.
I believe.
So in this article he wrote, he talks about John McCain this past week. And he talks about how, isn't it kind of interesting how McCain develops an illness and then skirts issues like Hillary Clinton. So apparently a while ago, John McCain was supposed to testify and give testimony about the Russian dossier and what he knew or didn't know about the Russian dossier. So Trump was supposed to, John McCain was supposed to testify about this. Well, that's when he got the cancer, the tumor in his eye. I'm not making fun of anybody's health right here. I'm just stating fact. Ironically,
how long ago was that roughly? Like 3-4 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, ironically, out of the blue, he said, I got an eye appointment. And out of the blue, the eye appointment said, oh, you got a tumor in your eye. You've got cancer.
Right. Which happens. That kind of stuff happens.
Sure. It's just so coincidental that he didn't show up to give testimony and still never has.
You know what my dad said? And we actually reported this for those of you that watch or listen to Smith Radio every week. This will sound familiar to you. My dad said, in my lifetime, had probably about 4 friends or colleagues or people close to me that I can consider somebody that I know well end up getting diagnosed with brain cancer. About 4 people. Not a single one of them lived past 30 days after finding out that they were diagnosed with that.
Yeah, usually that's a hardcore thing.
Yeah, some of them were even quicker than that, but he said, 30 days. And I remember thinking, oh, man, so probably...
I really, honest God, I had some sympathy for McCain for a split second.
Right, so I was thinking, with today's modern medicine and the fact that he is a congressman, which means that he gets treated like a king or a prince, above and beyond what his subjects get treated with, their level of treatment.
Right.
He gets a upper tier because he's an elite. He's an elite. He's actually better than us.
Right.
That's the way they think. Let's say we double that.
They're exempt from Obamacare.
Well, you could double that or triple that, right? What my dad has experienced, which is 30 days, is about what they survive after finding out that they've been diagnosed. We've already passed that with John McCain.
Yes.
So kind of makes me wonder how much truth. And remember how it was reported. It was reported as this is the most aggressive type. And when I told my dad that, he's like, yeah, I definitely knew a couple people that had that exact type of brain cancer, and there's just nothing you could do. You could remove as much of it out of there.
And we're not saying he's faking it. We're not saying he still doesn't have it. We're not saying that. I'm just saying it's coincidental. And 2 weeks ago, Russia dossier started to heat up again. John McCain appeared on Capitol Hill in a boot, a cast. The boot with a cane.
Okay.
And he's limping.
Okay.
Like, I don't get... Nobody knows why. And so fast forward to this week. Okay.
I'm trying to remember what movie I could reference here where somebody was faking an injury for sympathy.
Yeah, you could definitely go with...
I'm trying to... the only one that comes to mind...
Fletch.
Oh... Oh, okay.
Spies Like Us, when he had the fake broken arm and he had all the all the answers in his arm.
Yeah, he showed up late to his test and he had a broken arm, he had an eye patch and a limp, and he was all messed up.
The actor that played both these parts.
Yeah. So did he also do it in Fletch?
Yes. Well, he was undercover and the faking stuff, and it was all.
So apparently that's his shtick.
Yeah.
Is faking injuries in order to act out a physical comedy routine. So I'm
Chevy Chase, folks. Chevy Chase.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if I have questions for If I saw him in real life, I'd probably blurt it out.
Right.
Or do you still have brain cancer? Like scream it out from a distance or something like that.
Oh, just like what's his face from
We got a lock up here, folks. We got a lock up. His brain is
got the
smoking.
squeal like a pig thing.
Oh,
what was his face?
Ned Beatty?
Yeah, when they started screaming at Ned Beatty at the airports.
For what?
Squeal like a pig.
Oh, were they doing that?
Yes.
Oh no, that's got to be embarrassing.
Do you think?
Were they really doing that?
Oh man,
that was Brian, by the way.
I wasn't even alive.
Oh, Brian, he's now apologizing.
Oh wow. So check this out. As the true pundit, as Thomas 1776 Paine writes, now as the topic of McCain's role in Trump media leaks, the Trump dossier, Uranium One, McCain's dealing with Comey. We're not talking about that, are we? And other questionable ties of McCain's private foundation are all growing. This week, McCain shows up in a wheelchair.
Oh, come on. Well, I mean, maybe the brain cancer's really taking its toll. I don't know.
It's getting worse.
Well, I mean, like I
it
said,
spread to his foot, and that's why he had the boot on. Why has he got a boot? Who wears a boot and not explain yourself?
Well,
I mean, at least Dirty Harry they got beat up by.
Oh, right, the guy that got beat up. Yeah,
he got Dingy Harry got beat up by his the guy collecting for the money. He's gambling.
He got beat up by somebody.
He said he fell down the stairs.
I think he got beat up by his wife or something.
No, it was the people coming for him for his money, for his gambling debts.
What?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. Dingy Harry. When
right.
He had the, was it
Harry
Dingy
Reid.
Harry?
Yeah,
Harry Reid. Harry Reid.
Well, they call him Dingy.
Okay, all right.
Did you think his real name was Dingy?
I thought it was Dirty Harry. Because he is kind of dirty. He is dingy and dirty.
Harry Reid, yeah.
Oh man. So yeah, I mean that's just what's going on. Did you want to play that Speary sexual harassment video from Deface the Nation?
Yeah, if you want.
Is that a good time to play it now? I mean, it's kind of weird.
Well, yeah, it's not great segued in, but we had been talking about it earlier in the show. Yeah, you could play.
We were going to move to finish up with Trump and the great things.
It's a good way to segue into the fact that I found out this week that I was blocked by John Dickerson.
No way!
You didn't hear about that?
No, fist pumps on that one,
yeah,
man. Nice.
I don't know how I found it out, but I think I wanted to include him in a tweet, and I couldn't find. I was like, why can't I find John Dickerson? Well, when you get blocked on Twitter,
you can't find nobody.
You have to type his handle all the way in. It won't autofill it for you or anything. So I was like, what's going on? Why can't I find John Dickerson's handle on Twitter? Well, then when I went to go to his actual profile, that's when I found out that I had been blocked. I've definitely given him a hard time, but anyway, he's the host of Face the Nation.
Or as Trump says, Deface the Nation.
Yeah.
Which was originally, I think, coined by Rush Limbaugh.
Probably. I would imagine that he was the one that made up Deface.
Which is pretty cool that Trump quotes Rush Limbaugh. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It's kind of interesting. Okay, so here's the finishing up with all the sexual harassment. We were talking about the Clintons just a second ago, so...
Yeah, there's just a couple things I wanted to say about this and a little bit more philosophical about what's going on in the country with the different parties.
It is perhaps the worst I've seen in 30 years of working on these issues. The old boys club was pretty bad. You're saying it's worse now?
Well, I think it's worse in part because we have a system in place that allows for the harasser to go unchecked, doesn't pay for the settlement himself, and is never identified. So
so is she talking about Al Sharpton?
Not Sharpton, Al Franken.
I thought she was talking about Al Sharpton when Al Sharpton accused the white guy of raping a black woman.
We might have to replay this because here's what I wanted to say real quick. This is a perfect time to say this. She's specifically talking about the $15 million slush fund that Congress has set up in order to pay off any potential accusers of sexual harassment, sexual misconduct of congressmen. And I never knew about this, and when somebody pointed this out to me this week, I thought for sure this is probably not true because that's ridiculous. But then a whole bunch of people I mean, it ended up being a viral tweet when I tweeted out that Congress has literally socialized the sexual harassment industry.
Right. There's an industry and a payoff.
Yeah, they actually created a legal slush fund for all congressmen for sexual misconduct accusations. So play it over from the beginning and keep that in mind when you listen to this Democrat representative from California describe what this slush fund actually does and means.
It is perhaps the worst I've seen in 30 years of working on these issues. The old boys club was pretty bad. You're saying it's worse now?
Well, I think it's worse in part because we have a system in place that allows for the harasser to go unchecked.
Right.
Doesn't pay for the settlement himself.
Right.
And is never identified. So
Right.
the Office of Compliance to which a victim must apply or complain is a place that has really been an enabler of sexual harassment for these many years because of the way it's constructed.
As Congress and the larger culture tries to figure out what the standard is for treating accusers who come forward, something better than what has been, where they've been blocked, but also something that doesn't allow false accusations, how does that standard get determined in your mind?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that a complaint is taken seriously and that the person who is the victim is not somehow tortured or intimidated into not filing the complaint. That's what it is right now in Congress. There's a 1 month period where you're counsel. There's another month where you go through mandatory mediation and you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement at the front end. And then you have to have a month of cooling off period. I mean, that is truly ridiculous.
1 month cooling off period. I think she just described about 5 months there if they go back to back to back. But did you hear that? Nobody has to pay out of their own pocket when if you're a congressman and you decide to conduct yourself with,
If you're a politician and you do what Bill Clinton did.
Yeah, you don't have to,
or what Bob Menendez did.
There's a system that they put in place where the first thing they do is get a non-disclosure agreement from the accuser. And then there's a month of counseling, a month of cooling off is what she called it, a month of all kinds of crazy stuff. So this is like 5 months before anything even gets heard on the legal end. And then at the end of the day, not a single dime ever comes out of the congressman's pocket. This comes out of the slush fund that they've essentially set up to socialize the sexual abuse industry. And they never they're never named publicly, and there's a non-disclosure agreement at the end of the day for the women.
So the accuser, if she wants money, or he, it's possible it could be he or she, if they want money or if they want recourse, they sign an agreement that they will not speak.
That's the first thing they do.
Before you even get involved, you got to say you won't speak to nobody.
Right, or else it's all off the table. Hey, we got a huge slush fund. Now, you could go about the hard way.
It's official. Pizzagate never happened because nobody could talk about it.
Yeah, there's all these... Oh, God, Brian. Brian.
Did I just break news?
I cannot dispute that. I can't
dispute the fact that you can't talk about that.
I can't dispute what you just said there. I know we're all supposed to, and I feel so bad for people who have spoken out against it, who have now been labeled the Pizzagate guy, and I'm not even going to name any names, because it's a shame, because I don't think it's really been debunked.
I don't think it has.
And we've been there. We've been to Comet Ping Pong. And we...
That's it. It was creepy. It was creepy beyond creep.
It is a place of
ill
satanic worship. Sure. Clearly.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, no, did you hear that? That's why I wanted this to be played. I'm so glad you got that together in time. I threw that soundbite at Brian with like no time left before the show started. He threw that, and do you see how important that is? She lays out in about a minute what this slush fund essentially does.
And this is a Democrat.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. She's mad that victims have to basically go through this system. And by the way, she's protected by this system too. She's a congressman.
She can't speak about this.
No. Her accusers,
They can't speak about what she did to them.
Oh, and you could tell. You could see the look on her face. Guilty as all get out. Hey, I'm accused right now.
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
I want some of that slush fund. I want $150,000, but I'll settle out of court for $150.
$150?
Or a 40 and a pack of smokes. I'm just saying.
I feel like we've been had and been taken advantage of for the last 20, 25 years.
Hey, Brian used to live in California. Maybe he feels like he got raped.
Oh, boy, did we. Don't tell me that Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't real.
Oh,
that wasn't real.
Man.
It was all fake.
Yeah.
And then now Jerry Brown destroying the rest of the rest of that state.
Oh, you
said
should
said he's going to build a wall on the California border to protect him from Trump.
Oh, oh my gosh. Anyway.
Whew.
Wow, so that's Smith Radio for you right there.
Yeah, and as we segue into the Donald Trump impeachment hearings.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear about
going?
that?
How's that going?
Oh, well,
is that getting some traction?
Traction? This is Al, not Al Green, not the singer.
Okay.
Not the singer Al Green. Kind of might look a little bit like him. No, this is Representative Al Green, who's as crazy as the other guy that looks like a mad dog. Like he's always angry. He's always
Cummins,
yeah.
Charles Cummins.
Yeah.
He's terrible.
No, and both of them sound alike. I mean, you'll never see them both in the same room. They're both just as crazy. If you put both those in the same room at the same time, the whole room would explode because craziness.
They're both in Congress, though. I'm sure they've been in the same room at some
Never.
point. Okay. All right.
Unless the room caught fire. That's how crazy they are. So this is the Maxine Waters of the leader of Impeach 45.
Madam Speaker, I stand before the world today with an impeachment update. But I want to assure every American that this vote on articles of impeachment will take place before Christmas, and that this vote will be about the incitement of hate, about how the country is being pushed back, how America is better than the direction that someone seeks to push us forward into. This is a great country, and we cannot tolerate hate. And this may be one of the few times in the history of the country that persons will be given the opportunity to take a stand against hate by casting the appropriate vote in the Congress of the United States of America. I will give future updates on impeachment from this podium.
Thank you so much, Wagner, for adding Ride of the Valkyries.
Is that what that was?
Yeah, I'm not sure why they put that in there, but okay, it makes it a little bit more entertaining.
We're in trouble from YouTube, faux show.
No, that's open source.
I should play it all the time now.
Well, yeah, once music is over 1 million years old, it's
right.
Like the old classics. Like you don't get in trouble for playing Mozart.
I won't?
No.
Man, I ought to play it now.
I don't think he's going to sue you.
No. So for those of you who've been asking me all week, what do I think about the impeachment? You heard it from the horse's mouth. It is laughable. It is hysterical. He's going to impeach on the basis of anger.
I know. I was trying to figure out what we're talking about here.
And he will give updates accordingly from that podium.
Okay.
Before Christmas.
Before Christmas, our anger is going to be translated into impeachment.
Well, here's the problem with this impeachment, folks. Here's the problem. I don't even think I don't even think they work more than another couple of days for the rest of the year.
I didn't realize they were even in session at all.
That's a good question. They might not be.
Are they ever in session?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my
I don't think so. I mean, this is the ridiculousness of it all, folks, and the whole thing this week with bashing Trump, left and right, the crazy Representative Al Green, and I did watch. I thought it was before I saw Mark Dice's video on this. I watched Donald Trump give his speech the other day after he came back from the Asia tour, and he talked about all the great things of America, all the things he did that were good, money that he's bringing, investments that he's bringing. When was the last time you heard of a president take a world tour and come back with money?
Would he come back with a duffel bag? I don't know. I guarantee you Clinton probably did a couple times. He's been selling the whole country out.
Sorry, wrong question. Came back to America with money coming back to America.
Oh, you're saying with good deals.
Good deals.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Billions of dollars of investments from China into America.
You know what's funny? I think that we've been so poorly managed, kind of with that trade in mind,
right,
for so long, that with Trump having the experience that he does in business, he's probably like, oh my gosh, this is easier than I thought.
This is too easy.
This is
too easy.
I'm used to dealing with these people in business. You know what it's like?
Here's what he said during the election when one of the commentators gave him the question about, you filed bankruptcy and this and that, and he said, hey, whoa. Let me tell you about these bankers. Don't you get no soft heart for these killers.
Right.
They're bloodthirsty killers.
Right.
These ain't no soft people now.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm just saying he knows who he's dealing with.
Yeah. To give you an analogy that I can understand, and hopefully you can at home, it'd be like playing poker. Like my local poker establishment, which is the casino downtown. We have some of the best poker players in the entire country. And just to bolster that point, bunch of them that are in the room downtown here in Cincinnati were in like the final 3 tables of the World Series of Poker. Like several of them, a handful of them.
Wow.
So some of the best poker players in the world are right here in Cincinnati, and I go and play there and I do well there. But it would be like Trump going to the White House to do deals on behalf of our country would be like sending me to a poker table with a bunch of rich guys who are sitting down for the first time at a poker table.
I got one better.
All right.
It's like back in the 90s.
Okay.
When they allowed professional basketball players to
go
to the Olympics.
The Dream Team in 1992, I believe it was.
Yes.
When Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley.
Did Larry Bird play?
Oh, Bird was there. Magic Johnson was there.
Oh, my God.
They were all there.
They said when they went to play against these other teams, the other teams around the world took the court.
And they were excited.
With pens and paper in hand for autographs.
That's all they wanted was an autograph, and they were bowing down and thankful to be on the same court with them. We are not kidding. This actually happened. And I think they had to put an actual effort forth in the finals. They still blew out.
Destroyed.
They destroyed, but they actually had to play.
Right.
They actually had to put together, assemble some plays together on offense, and they had to maybe put a little bit of effort in on defense. Only in the finals. All the other games, it was like they're just alley-oop and like, hey, let's make a show out of this. I mean, it was
the Harlem Globetrotters.
So that's a great example because
Donald first here on Smith Radio. Donald Trump and his entourage touring the world as the Dream Team.
It's the Dream Team of world leaders because what they have to do in these negotiations, I mean, and here's the thing, here's the beauty part of the analogy. What the Dream Team had to do in their regular job, which is compete in the NBA, was very difficult for them. They may have been the best of the best in the NBA, but they were 110% effort every other day or every day for how many games? Like 82 games a year for years and years. And then they finally get to the big stage, the world stage, the Olympics. And it's like, oh my gosh, finger roll from the 3-point line. And it's just like easy stuff. And, oh my gosh! And
imagine Trump, what he had to do with his how many hundreds of businesses did he own at one time?
It was probably a bloodbath. What he did in America in this completely corrupted, crony socialist environment in America and that's why he ran. He was like, I cannot believe these crooks in the
these politicians are allowing. Me, and they're allowing other people, and they're allowing people to get away with murder.
Right.
This is ruining. Not only that, but he's looking at it, folks, and he's saying this is ruining. To himself, he's saying this is going to end up ruining everything we've got going on here.
Yeah.
We got to dial this back, dial myself back, as well as these other, like when you've got Walmart that says green light Obamacare,
that's a problem.
Because it will weed out the mom and pop shops because they can't afford it.
Yep.
Raise minimum wage because nobody else can afford it. Trump knows this. He sees this. He's like, man, this has got to stop.
Right. He sees it firsthand because he's in the big business world. And here's the big difference between Trump and like your Mark Cubans and these other guys that are billionaires. But
Mark Cuban got it accidentally.
Yeah, that's a whole nother story that we can get into later. I just want to make this point. How about like your Warren Buffett? So the big difference between Trump and Warren Buffett, this is a perfect analogy. And let's throw in Bill Gates. We'll throw him in there too.
Because I saw that documentary. Bill Gates is a ODB.
ODB?
He is just an awful, awful person.
So here's the big difference. The big difference, they're both. All these guys are very, very successful billionaires. Some of them had went to rags to riches, or I should say not rags, but very, very, very less wealthy to the wealthiest people in the world because of their intelligence and their success and their hard work and all this kind of stuff. But what's the difference? Somewhere along the line, whether it was in his upbringing, whether it was in his teenage years, or somewhere along the line, Donald Trump just had this patriotism that's a little bit unusual compared to his colleagues.
Well, look at Bill Gates. I mean, I'm not really sure if he says he's a patriot. He's
a socialist,
right? He's mistaken.
Definitely
he's got a misconception of a concept.
Well, and so it's not just patriotism alone. It's also some sort of an understanding of philosophy. And I'm probably going to talk to Stefan Molyneux about this. They want me to have me on his show as a guest, which the reason I'm kind of slow doing it is because they want me to pick a topic. And maybe you guys at home can help me out. I talk about everything. So it's hard for me, and I had this conversation with Brian on the phone the other day. What one question or topic do I bring up to talk to Stefan Molyneux about for an hour? Which is probably what I'll be on for at least 40 minutes. All of his guest shows are at least 40 minutes, but I talk about everything. I like to opine on everything, and to weed it down to one is one thing. But one of the things that I probably want to talk to him about, because Stefan Molyneux is a philosopher, is Donald Trump's philosophy. And I feel like he learned not only about philosophy in general, more so than a lot of other people that are in his realm, which is your multi-billionaire type of businessmen, but I think that he learned about the founders of our country's philosophy. And I think that he decided, well, that's the genius of the founding of our country, is that their philosophy was based on the Enlightenment period philosophers of like John Locke and Charles Montesquieu, and the rejection of the philosophers who are more of your socialist types like your Hobbes and all them. See, they were more of your socialist type people. And it was because our founders decided that we need to found a country based on these particular philosophies. And I think that Trump at some points, I don't know if it was in his childhood or it could have been later on, like me, I didn't learn this stuff as a child. I learned this recently.
He talks a lot about his father.
Okay.
And how his father was very strict and in his upbringing. Apparently his father was very, very business savvy, very successful.
Yeah, and I tend to believe that Trump actually learned this philosophy and, just like I did, recognized that we had fallen far from that. We had all these people that are currently in charge of America, all the people that are in charge of the media industry, the news industry, and definitely all the people who are in charge of the Department of Education have fallen so far away from the Enlightenment period philosophy that I think somebody like a Donald Trump, who would have only done this had he learned the founding philosophies, learned the founding fathers' philosophies, and realized and recognized that we had fallen so far that, oh my gosh, I need to sacrifice everything to save this country. Because he did, right?
Right.
I mean, we're talking about a cut in millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Dude,
in
he
annual
gave
salary.
up the life the life of Riley and beyond.
Right. He definitely sacrifices a lot.
To be savaged?
Right. Not only him, but then he puts his entire family
His wife,
at risk.
his daughter, his sons.
Yeah, I mean, his son has to see his severed head on the air because of Kathy Griffin making that. Yeah, his son, 10-year-old son, sees it on TV and screams for his mother, is Daddy all right?
Right.
I think Daddy's on TV dead.
Right, and you've got articles this week how pathetic Ivanka Trump is and the stupidity of Don Jr. Those are real articles. I mean, they're not real, but they're really some moron out there in mainstream media world wrote this on the intranet.
Yeah.
It is that ridiculous. And it's, did you hear about the other things he did while he was in Asia, other than bringing billions of dollars worth of deals to America? Did you hear about the thing with North Korea?
Which one? I mean, there's a guy that defected. And...
Did you hear that? Did you hear that China is sending an envoy with delegates to North Korea to negotiate?
What are they going to negotiate?
Did he cut it out? I don't know. It's about the missiles, about calming down, about taking.
You know what I would like?
China, whether it's for looks or not, folks, I don't care. If this is just for optics, and I believe it's not, because nobody's talking about it. If it was for optics, maybe okay, whatever, but nobody's talking about this. But China is sending an envoy of delegates to go talk with North Korea after Trump just left. So apparently he made him do something happen.
Yeah, something happened. I like that. I think that the Otto Warmbier, the guy that was the American who was enslaved for the most part in North Korea and then was end up tortured to death ultimately because he ended up dying right when he got back to America. I think that deeply affected Trump. And I think that it didn't just deeply affect him as in, oh, I feel so bad and that I feel like something needs to be done for the family. I think it goes way beyond that. I think that he may be channeling the feelings. I don't know. Like I feel like he may not stop until something is permanently done with North Korea. I actually said this from the very get-go when North Korea started acting up, that we need to get rid of him because what the hell is his purpose anymore? His family was put in power. He gained power from his family. It's like an heir to the throne type thing because he was his family was installed there by Joseph Stalin as a part of a falling dominoes thing, where the Soviet bloc was just collecting countries and turning them into communist countries, and they were going to try to take over the world one country at a time. And of course, North Korea was one of them as kind of an agreement post World War II is, we'll take the north side, you guys take the south side, and we'll install a dictator there, and it'll just be a communist country. Well, Soviet Union's gone. The Cold War's over. Everybody knows that communists fail, and yet we're stuck with these stupid rogue little states like North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and maybe a couple other ridiculous communist countries. And it's just doesn't work. It needs to end.
UCLA basketball players.
Oh, yeah. What's that all about?
That stole some stuff from different stores, whatever they did.
These are basketball players that are students at UCLA.
Yep, hanging out in China.
They went to China.
Apparently stole some stuff.
Which, what the hell's that about?
That I don't know.
Like, why would you even do that?
That I don't know. We don't know the records. We don't know the story. We don't know nothing.
Do you know why they were there? Like, why do you go to China?
I don't know that.
I've never been to China. Were they there for like an exhibition game? Or
no, just a handful of them.
Okay. Because China has turned into big basketball fans because of
they
Yao
might
Ming.
Have been. They might have been over there for.
Right. Yeah, Yao Ming was in the Olympics. He was like 7'20", something like that. I don't know. He's like 20 foot tall, and he did so well in the Olympics. He ended up coming to America and becoming an NBA star.
Play real ball.
And because of that, China has turned into basketball fans. So it wouldn't surprise me if some Americans went over there and did like a tournament or something like that. It wouldn't surprise me. But you're saying they shoplifted, got caught, which is so stupid. You are so dumb. If you go to any country outside of America and you do anything that you would even suspect is breaking the law, and you do it anyway, you are so dumb. And you got to know shoplifting is illegal. How the hell do you not know you're not breaking the law when you steal something?
You know you can't do that in America.
Well,
so why would you do it there?
Well, when Otto Warmbier got busted, obviously it was stupid. It was definitely not something.
He was taking a propaganda sign.
It was a poster. It was a paper poster, whatever, up on the wall. He ripped it down, folded it up, and said, I'm taking this as a souvenir. To me, that's an honest mistake. Obviously, when you're in your young days and whatnot, you kind of, you don't even think that that's that risky. It's literally a poster. In America, if you see a poster on a wall in a public place, you probably aren't even going to get a look from a cop that is watching you do it.
Probably not. Probably not.
I mean, people put up posters all over public places all the time, and people rip them off. How many times do you see a poster up on a telephone pole that says yard sale this weekend?
All the time.
Yeah, could you imagine ripping one of those off? I mean, you wouldn't even think twice about it. But you rip off a poster in North Korea, turns out that's propaganda. But shoplifting, that's different.
That's big time. That's big time.
That's a real crime.
If you go into a store and you don't pay for something and you walk out with it, here in America, if you take, and this is something I found, I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how wrong it was. I knew it was bad. I knew you'd get in trouble. If you're one of those people that takes the price tag off of one item and puts it on another item.
That's a big no-no.
I've got a brother-in-law who runs and has run grocery store chains for the last 25, 30 years. His whole life, that's all he's ever done.
Right.
And he said to me, oh, no, that is as egregious, if not worse, than walking out the door and stealing something.
Right.
Because now you're lying to us right to our face, trying to fake it and make it look real.
Right.
And you're getting out the door.
Yeah, no. I did know right off the bat that was wrong and illegal, because you're right. You may not be, maybe if you take let's say you're buying something for $100 and you switch the price tag to make it look like it's
$10.
Well, no, that's obvious. I'm saying let's do a simpler example. You switch it to $80. So that way it looks realistic. Like, then nobody's going to think nothing of that.
You're saving 20% discount.
That's equivalent to putting something that costs $20 in your pocket and trying to walk out of it without even going through the checkout.
Right.
So
it's awful.
It's totally stealing. So.
Okay, so anyways, the reason why I brought up these UCLA basketball players is because Donald Trump, after just a couple days, he got China to let him go.
Yeah, he was there, and he said, I'm not leaving without him. And they're like, good, you're staying here forever. I don't know.
Remember, I believe his name is Fahid, the Christian preacher that was in Iran, imprisoned in Iran for preaching about Christ, in prison for years.
Was he an American citizen?
Yeah, yes, he was. Yes, he was. John Kerry and Obama negotiated an Iranian deal, come back, and they ask, hey, what about Saeed Fareed? What about Saeed? Did you talk to him about the Christian pastor that's in prison?
They didn't even answer it, did they?
They didn't have any idea.
They didn't even know he was there?
No, they didn't even know. Wasn't even on their radar.
It may have been on their radar, and they just said, screw him.
Screw him, he's a Christian, he's done. Okay, how about Tamarosi? Remember that one?
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, the guy that went to Mexico by accident with firearms in his trunk.
Yep, and one of them happened to be a rifle from his grandfather that was a neat little rifle thing, some whatnot, and he may have been suffering from PTSD.
He was actually a Marine. I know you said you called him a soldier, which, I don't really...
Sergeant.
I get a little bit triggered.
He's a sergeant. Okay. He was a sergeant.
Yeah. In the Marines, we refer to soldiers that's Army.
That's true. That's true. Like in the Air Force, if I say yes or no, sir, if I did that in the Army, they would scream and yell at me. You never call them sir, ever. What? I work for a living.
Oh, you're talking about enlisted people. Right. Same thing with the Marines. You can't call them sir if they're enlisted, because sir is supposed to be reserved for officers.
Well, they would yell at me, I work for a living, boy. I'm like, excuse me? I'm not in the Marine. I'm not in the Army. I'm not in the Marine Corps. You can't tell me what to do.
I triggered a bunch of pilots in the Air Force. apparently Air Force salutes even if you're not wearing your hat. And
you do. Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Well, when we were
you're supposed to salute the car even if nobody's in it.
Shut up. No, that's no, if it's parked you don't have to salute it. But
if the wife is in
it, you got to salute the car.
If somebody's driving that car.
If the 16-year-old daughter of a second lieutenant,
the lowest of the
lowest is driving to school,
salute her. Yeah,
she'd be driving his car though. That's why the sticker would be on. But anyway, yes.
Which would technically, if she was going to school in his car, technically that's illegal.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
official
illegal.
business.
Really?
Official business.
I mean, it's his private car.
No. It's given to him. Well, in the Air Force, you get one. They give you one.
You
in the
have
Air
to
Force.
buy yours in the Marines. So anyway, we are not allowed to wear our hat on the flight line because the wind could blow it off your head and it would go into the intake of a jet engine and cause millions of dollars of damage. So obviously you do not wear any kind of headgear of any type on your head when you're on the flight line within the fenced-in area.
Right.
We also learned from boot camp you do not salute if you don't have your cover on.
And your cover is your hat.
Your hat. And so when we are on the flight line without our hat, we walk by an officer and we do not salute him. Now, if you're a Marine officer, you know that that's fine. You just give him the greeting. Good afternoon, sir. Or good evening, sir. Or good morning, sir. But in the Air Force, we would walk by Air Force pilots all the time on the Air Force bases when we were.
Sure.
And we'd tell them, we'd say, good afternoon, sir, or good morning, sir, and walk right by with no salute. And they would always stop. They would always stop and turn around and say, hey!
You better lock it up, son.
Salute. And we'd be like, sir, we're not supposed to salute because...
Did you know who I am?
Don't you know what? Yeah. Daggone.
Oh, those Air Force pilots, they were dandies, all right.
Oh.
They were they got away with everything. Anything and everything they wanted, they got it.
Oh, boy.
The Officers Club was specifically only for officers. They would get drunk. They'd ride their motorcycles into the club. I mean, it was
ridiculous.
Anything you ever saw, the shenanigans on Top Gun.
Oh yeah, that was the Officer Club.
It was beyond that. I mean, that was
Do they actually sing the song?
No, they would just get drunk and fall down and fight.
I think she's got that lonely feel.
Okay, I am so sorry I brought that up. Wow.
Now everybody listening's like, oh my gosh, they're going to start singing.
So it took negative ghostwriter. Pattern is full.
Oh,
right.
All right.
So it took Obama 214 days to free Sergeant Tamarosi. 214 days. He was in a Mexican jail with no trial, no questions, no nothing.
Wow.
214 days. And Donald Trump wrote a check to Tamarosi for $25,000 to help him get him on his feet.
And that was when he was a citizen.
That's when he was a citizen, right.
He was not this was before he was running or anything like that. So there's definitely miles of evidence that Donald Trump, he has a heart, he's patriotic, he loves the military, and it's not like he's doing this stuff because he wants people to know about it. A lot of this stuff we have to find out about it from second, third-hand sources,
right?
Because he doesn't go around bragging about it.
No, not at all. And this is what he tweeted out up to the UCLA players. He said to the 3 UCLA basketball players,
the 3 Utes.
Yeah, I say, you're welcome. Go out and give a big thank you to President Xi Jinping of China, who made ... Apparently he only gets 140 characters still. Who made your release possible, and have a great life. Be careful. There are many pitfalls along the winding road of life. I'm going to tell you right now, folks. You want to talk about a sage. You want to talk about probably the coolest grandpa out there to learn from. Instead of berating these kids, instead of really getting down on them.
I didn't mean to cut you off here, but when I was listening to you read that, I wasn't sure. You made it sound like Trump tweeted that out.
He did.
Oh, it says...
It was a two-part tweet.
Oh, because it says...
No, it was a tweet.
It says it took Obama 214 days to freeze...
You see where it says TT in blue?
I don't have... Mine's in black and white.
See where the double T is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Okay.
TT means Trump tweets.
Gotcha.
That's my little note.
Okay.
Let me know Trump tweets.
He said you're welcome. Did they even say thank you?
No, man. I think it was an eruption. They've been suspended. There's all kinds of crazy nonsense over that whole ordeal. But just to let you know, seriously, folks, this is Trump's MO. This is how Trump rolls. Back this up. A good friend of ours on, I think it was Sam, in the private message group that we have, Smith Radio. If you want to be a part of that, crush the Patreon button on smithradio.com, smythradio.com. Hit the Patreon button. You can become a private in our private message meetup group. Well, he sent this to me. This is a tweet from Trump from October 28th, the end of October 2014.
Whoa, that's a long time ago. That's like ancient history.
Right. The tweet only has like, 700 likes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And 600 retweets.
Okay.
This is from Trump, October 2014. Success requires 100% of your focus and 100% of your effort. Don't sell yourself short. That's just Trump. That's who he is. I mean, that doesn't come from Rhino Republicans. That doesn't come from the Democrats. That doesn't come from politicians because they take what they want. They don't have to earn it. They pay off the people to get what they need to get, to do what they need to do. This is the real deal. We've got Trump in office, the real deal. And the more, folks, the more they hate on him, the more anger that they have for him, the more we are on the right path and the right track. And to kind of wrap up the Trump phenomenon this week, another little thing from my Mark Dice. I got a little Mark Dice. I can't help it, folks. Trump was drinking a bottle of water. I'll go back to that story when he's talking about
right.
He's talking about China.
I forgot about that.
He's talking about China. I was watching this the other day, and I'm like, damn, he's parched. I mean, can somebody hook him up?
Okay, so
like if I was part of the entourage, I would have, like football style, I would have trod Trump a bottle of water.
Oh, Secret Service would have an aneurysm.
Well, they need to calm down. I'm hooking my Trump up with a square bottle of Fiji water, which turns out to be liberal drinking tears. So I'm gonna let Mark Dice tell you about it, folks. Here's Mark Dice on the liberal drinking tears.
Breaking news from CBS. President Trump pauses during remarks for a sip of water. Oh, by the way, this is actually a real article on CBS's website. While addressing the nation Wednesday afternoon following his 12-day trip to Asia, President Trump abruptly paused his remarks twice to take a sip of water. Okay, seriously, I'm not joking. When I said I wasn't joking before, that wasn't the joke. I'm 100% serious. This is a real story on CBS News. Speaking at the White House, Mr. Trump initially fumbled in looking for the Fiji water bottle and then ducked below the lectern in search of refreshment. Someone off camera pointed out the bottle to his right on a nearby table. Once he located the water, he took a sip. A few minutes later, he took another break from his remarks to sip a second time. How dare this man need a drink of water after he's been talking all day? Let's take a look at this impeachable offense.
Japanese companies have announced investments in the United States worth more than $8 billion, 17,000 jobs. Thank you.
Oh, what's he doing?
He disappeared. That's okay.
Oh, how rude.
What? Oh, it's okay.
What are you doing? Keep speaking. Why are you interrupting the speech? How dare you? What a jerk. Impeach! Impeach! Impeach!
Japanese manufacturers, Toyota and Mazda.
Oh, that's just the beginning of the insanity that ensued after the president took a drink of water. Take a look at this article from Newsweek. When I first saw a screenshot of this floating around on Twitter, I literally thought it was a parody of the news reporting about him taking the drink of water, but I guarantee you this is actually the real Newsweek story. Here's scientific proof that Trump's hands are too small to hold a water bottle like a normal adult. Seriously, this is not a Newsweek spoofing website. This is the real website and the real article. On Wednesday, President Trump was giving a televised speech at the White House to recap his Asia tour. About 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, he began to wheeze and looked around for water, announcing that he didn't have any. Multiple journalists pointed to a Fiji water bottle to his right. Yay, the journalists came to the rescue. They're always looking out for his best interests. Trump then picked the bottle up and, using both hands, drank from it. What the hell is this? The water bottle Trump was provided was a plastic Fiji water brand bottle. According to Fiji Water's website, its water bottles are available in 4 sizes.
This is
the
for
bottle
real.
Trump used appeared to be the 500 milliliter. As of press time, Fiji Water had not responded to a request for comment as to whether its 500 milliliter bottle was designed to be grasped by 1 normal-sized adult hand or 2. They actually reached out to the water bottle company to get a comment on President Trump taking a drink during his speech. However, we can reasonably infer from the phrases completely portable and the perfect serving size for adults that this bottle was intended to fit comfortably in a single normal-sized hand of an adult with normal-sized hands. At this point, most liberal mainstream media outlets are literally just trolling for clicks. Nobody subscribes to their newspapers anymore. Nobody subscribes to their magazines. We're in an online digital world, and nobody is visiting their websites unless they put out these crazy, sensationalistic, clickbait, trolling, bottom-feeding headlines that they hope people will spread through social media. Well, since you brought it up, mainstream media, maybe we should take a trip down memory lane and relive some of those hilarious moments that Hillary Clinton not only had to interrupt her speeches to take a drink of water, but couldn't even get through her speech because she would break out into coughing fits.
Too much to say.
And let's not forget that time that Hillary Satan pretended to take a drink of water, only to hack up a ball of green slime into the glass. What the hell is that? And let's not forget that time that little Marco interrupted his speech to take a drink of water, where he looked like a scared little girl, or like a deer staring into some headlights. Oh, what should I do? President Trump, on the other hand, is like, hey, you guys can wait. And by the way, that's not Fiji water that he's drinking. Those are liberal tears.
Okay, folks, as I'm working desperately to figure out what just happened, I know you're looking at Mark Dice right now, but that's okay. We're working out the bugs as we speak right now. So,
can they actually hear us?
Yeah, they can definitely hear us.
Well, what? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is like a radio show again.
Yeah.
We're back to radio.
Yeah, we're back to radio just for the moment, folks. Just for the moment. As we
Somebody said, don't worry, there's alternatives to Twitter coming.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Hopefully Twitter will stop doing what they do and allow us to do what we do. Anyhow, so Trump making America great again. Trump around the world doing what he does to get it done. Oh my Lord,
that's crazy about the small hands thing. Let me talk about the small hands thing real quick. So it happened with. Oh, we back? Awesome sauce. Brian's quick with that because it looked like a total complete crash.
You should have been inside my head.
Oh, I could tell by the way you're moving your little Trump hands. But anyway, I was just watching like, oh my gosh, Brian is having a total meltdown. He's doing a good job of hiding it though. But anyway, the little hands thing. First of all, I shook Donald Trump's hand.
This is for real.
And it was at Sharonville during the Sharonville rally in Ohio, and I got a chance to shake his hand. I kind of forced myself upon him because I could tell by his body language.
There was so much going on, though. There's always a lot going on.
I could tell he was trying to shake as many hands as possible without having to shake my hand.
Right.
I could tell. Like he was like consciously trying to avoid me. I guess I kind of looked scary. Plus, everybody else was in 3-piece suits, and I was in a T-shirt. A white T-shirt that had the Trump
that said "I feel the burn."
No, it was a Trump volunteer shirt. It was probably a little dirty and sweaty because I was working outside that day.
We should have came to you first.
I know, but anyway, so So I shook his hands, and the first thing I thought is this thing about his hands being small is completely made up out of thin air. And of course, if you look at the etymology of the small hands meme or whatever, it comes from little Marco doing a speech where he was trying to burn the hell out of Trump. And in the course of this little speech, this little talk, he points out that he had small hands or something. And it was not in reference to the actual size of his hands. It was in reference to a little thing that boys, that
young
junior high boys,
yes,
and even junior high girls,
yes,
talk about how there's a correlation between the size of hands
or the size of your shoe,
or yeah, that's right, shoe size. Because I noticed when I was in high school, I noticed that some girls tend to look at the shoe size and stuff like that, and there's like this myth of a correlation. And so little Marco decided to do a
I'm
reverse.
going junior high.
Yeah, he decided to do a reverse correlation. Since people have believe in the myth of the correlation between foot size and hand size and some other private things, that if he points out that he has small hands, that people will think that he's not very well endowed.
He's impotent and shouldn't be president. Impeach 45.
Right. So it turns out it was a junior high slander upon Donald Trump that was made up out of thin air.
Right. And SNL loved it, ran with it. They ran with it.
So everybody has run with it since. The problem is that it's not even true, because I shook his hand. I'm telling you from firsthand right now, it's not true.
My Gen Xer, the Gen X,
yeah,
the lib, yeah, he talks about Trump's hands, very little hands.
I will tell you.
I mean, this is over a year later. They're still triggered by his hands.
Two things. Number one, if his hands really were a little bit smaller, on the smaller side than your average person of his stature, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. That's number one.
Right.
But number two, I can tell you after shaking his hand that he had at minimum, average to maybe even larger hand for a guy who's 6'4"?
Yeah.
He's 6'4".
Hey, big guy.
So for a 6'4" guy, he has what you would imagine the size hand of a 6'4" guy would have.
Right.
It was like grabbing a package of hot dogs. I mean, it was like his hand was a lot larger than mine.
Hot dogs are like brats or Mets.
Probably just hot dogs. I mean, literally, he had big hands.
You're right.
So this whole thing is it's completely made up.
It's hysterical, is what it is. It's hysterical. They're triggered, folks. So real quick to run down a couple other great things that happened. The tax reform bill passes the House 227 to 205. Now it's on to the Senate. There was another article that said that Trump now paying his own legal bills and set up funds for staffers.
For defense of what?
Russiagate.
Oh, I thought it was all the sexual harassment that. So he's trying to do what Congress did, but no.
Right.
No.
And Zimbabwe, they're trying to oust Mugabe.
I'll take your word for it. I'll let you take the fall on that one.
So here's how the Fox News article read: the party, ZANU-PF party, threatened to impeach Mugabe. Yep. If he didn't resign by noon on Monday. Recently fired Vice President Emerson was appointed as the new leader of the party and is expected to lead a new government. Mugabe is expected to address the nation on Sunday, which he did. And in his address, he mentioned nothing about leaving. Meeting chair Obert called Mugabe to the outgoing president and said Sunday that a sad day. After 37 years of ruling Zimbabwe, he has been our leader for a long time. We have all learned a great deal from him.
What kind of deal?
The fact that they had to print $1 trillion bills because
$100 trillion.
Mega super hyperinflation.
Not $1 trillion. $100 trillion bills.
That doesn't even make any sense, folks.
Whoa, jeez.
Oh, yeah. No, that doesn't even make any sense. We got started a few minutes late, so his phone's going off now. It's no longer set.
I need to fix that setting.
Yeah, just give it. give your setting an extra 15 minutes for
it
our
goes
error.
in 1 hour increments.
Give it another hour, baby. Oh,
All
man.
right.
Folks, this is the fastest 3 hours you're going to spend anywhere with anybody in your entire life.
I can't believe it's
you.
over already. I can't believe it.
We love doing this. This is just this is our passion. We love doing this. If you like what you hear, folks, go over to smithradio.com, jump over there, crush the Patreon button, donate $1, donate $2. If we had 5,000 people donating $1, that would really help out, and we could do this more and more often.
It would be greater.
Stay tuned. For those of you on Periscope, I'm going to play that video that I played at the beginning, but I'm going to play it again. For those of you who are listening, share it with friend and family.
Yep. See you guys next week and all week long on Twitter.